in this case, it takes up 112 gigs of my space.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Yeah.
I need to complete that and Red Dead Redemption real fucking fast.
Yep. Oh no, I have a direct message on Twitter.
Red Dead Redemption was surprisingly good.
As
somebody who had absolutely no interest in it and only owns it because I bought a Pro, and buying the bundle PS4 Pro was cheaper than just buying a PS4 Pro.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did have one of the major plot twists spoiled for me, so I know one of the things that happens near the end.
Oh, you know about the ghosts?
No, I know about the...
You mean the ninjas?
That's a different game entirely.
Yeah.
We're going to Mexico.
We're going to space. It's like, wait a minute. It's like the end of Blazing Saddles, where it's like, this is a much different movie now.
Mhm.
Oh man. All right, well, you guys ready to start? Ready to do this thing? Ready to go?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Come on.
Quietly crying. All right. I will do
Concern in chat, yeah.
Oh yeah, you gotta get your emojis, get the Raptor, get all the good stuff. I'll do the intro to the show, similar to how we do the top 10, where it's like very quickly. Here's the rules. Here's the sort of what we're covering, and then we'll just kind of get into it.
The rules are there are no rules.
That's right. Fight.
I'm gonna have to be like Johnny on the fucking spot with my highlighter here, so I don't end up forgetting that somebody's talked about something already, and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna talk about this game for 2 hours, even though we talked about it earlier."
Yeah, I gotta start crossing some stuff out here once we get.
Really, it spam filtered me. Really.
Well, then don't spam.
Yeah, we gotta be like
No,
that.
because I wrote that.
Yeah.
But I wrote it with so many more H's and W's, and it did not put it in chat.
Yeah.
That's fun. All right, let's get started in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of That Video Game Podcast. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me, as always, is Moonpeer.
This was a mistake.
And the Nymph.
Hi.
Normally, this is where I do the intro of the show. I'd say something like patreon.com/E1M1. I'd also mention maybe the ones or numbers and say maybe go subscribe there. It's around $5 a month. But we're not doing a regular episode. We're on the cusp. We're on the brand new dawn of a new generation of consoles here coming out this week.
The day after this comes out?
Yeah, the Series X comes out the day after this, and the PS5 comes out 3 days after that. And so we thought that we would celebrate the last gen of consoles, the 8th generation of consoles. We didn't really do this for the 7th gen. And when Moon mentioned this and say like, hey, let's do like a send-off episode, I thought, that sounds, bless you. I thought, that sounds like a really good idea. Also, one where I don't have to write show notes for an episode, so you've sold me. So
that's literally the only reason why.
It sounds great. All right, so let's go over the rules as they are here. It's a very loose thing, a lot like has less rules than top 10, but we're covering the 8th generation. That's Wii U, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and mobile. This covers games from 2012 to 2020. We're going to go around the table like we do for top 10. So we'll go Moon, then Nymph, then myself. We try to impress upon you like we do in the top 10. These aren't like the perfect, the flawless, the indisputably best games of the generation. These are more our favorite games, like our highest recommendation for games, our favorite flawed gems, like sort of whatever. It's like, here are the memorable, mentionable games of this last generation.
To steal the definition from friends of the show, these are our favorites of the generation.
That's right. So we will forget something that we will be upset about next week, where they're like, we forgot about this thing. And probably cover most of them between the three of us, but your favorite game will probably not get mentioned, and I'm sorry. Either we forgot it or it sucks. Moving on.
Also, take a
fired.
shot or get somebody to sign up to Patreon. Every single time one of us says a game name, and one of the other two people go, "Oh, I forgot about that one."
Yep. Yeah.
'Cause
Please don't
like
play a
Game of the
drinking game.
Yeah, just like Game of the Year, we are doing this blind. Like,
Yes.
I don't know what these two are going to talk about. I've got an idea for NIMP. It's going to have 50,000 words in the title, and it's going to be made in Japan. That's easy enough.
I pared that down quite a bit
Okay.
because I didn't want this to be top 20 JRPGs of the generation.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like-
and
We don't know each other's games. We don't know
Right.
what the other person's going to talk about. So,
yeah, the only real the only real guidelines that I put forth on this is we didn't want a 6-hour episode, which hopefully is not predictive of the final runtime of this episode. But really tried to stick to around 20. I have 38, so that worked really well. And I know that both of these guys also have big lists, but there's a little bit of crossover here where it's, we're going to talk about big tentpole releases. At least one of us will have that on a shared list. So, let's just dive right into it. Moon, what is your first game?
so if you're a patron, you'll hear how I came about this list, and you'll hear why it's in the weird order it is. But let's start with the most recent game, period. Hades.
Ah, yes.
A game that has, even though it's only available on Switch and on PC at the moment, it's been 2 years or so since I last saw a game capture the internet this hard.
Yeah.
And that was God of War and Spider-Man in 2018. Like, they overtook the internet for ages, and Hades seems to be well on course for it. It's probably one of the best designed roguelikes of all time, period.
Yep.
Like, it's an incredible game, which plays well, it stories well, like, it feels so good to play. And I'd like to sit here and talk about it for 15 minutes, but we actually do have a separate show
Right.
where we talk about roguelikes.
Yep.
And depending on your patronage level or not, you're either in the middle of us talking about this, or about to start hearing us talking about this.
Right.
So if you want more detailed input on Hades, go check out the We Roguelike content. But
I'm still playing Hades after we did We Roguelike It, which is very uncommon for me to keep playing a game that we talked about, because we just played it for a month. Like, you kind of get all the blood from the stone after that point. But like, I spent like 3 hours last night laying in bed playing Hades, so it's still got its hooks in me.
when I was finished with my couple of runs on the current We Roguelike game, I may or may not have kicked up Hades just to do a couple of runs of that.
Right. It's crazy good, and it's one of those games where it is as good as people are saying it is on your Twitter feed.
Say, enough people have talked about it where it's on a list of things for me to check out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
day.
really good. Yeah. Hopefully it comes to other consoles soon, because it seems like one of those games where it's like, it's available on everything. Pick it up on your favorite platform. Just go play it. You need to try it.
Yeah, I will be buying this when it comes to Xbox.
Yeah,
no
100%.
hesitation.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hades. Fun fact, released in the year 2020.
That's right.
Mr. Nimp, tell me about your games.
My game, which is not a JRPG yet, is Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Oh, yeah.
So I was thoroughly burnt out on the Assassin's Creed series since probably after the entire Brotherhood setup.
Right.
I really liked everything that they did, but I was just tired of the exact same formula over and over again kind of thing. And then playing this game, I got it for a Christmas gift a couple years ago. I only got it because a lot of people were talking about how the open world is done really well, about how you can literally just take on the mission, whatever mission, however you want, and the scaling of being able to scale buildings and stuff like that felt more impactful in these games than it has in the previous versions of them.
Right.
So I gave it a shot, and boy, did I really enjoy that.
Yeah. Did you play Origins too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I played both. I got Odyssey, and then realized that it wasn't Origins.
Gotcha.
So I bought Origins and played that before playing Odyssey.
You blew through that, and you're like, "This is really great."
I went from Origins straight into Odyssey. Really loved both of them, but I really liked the story of Odyssey more.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both really good, honestly.
Oh yeah.
But I really like Odyssey a little bit more, just because of the whole Roman /
Yeah.
all the mythos, and I really, really enjoy I forget what they called the missions, but when they got more into the myth and lore, so much is not what historically happened, but more, hey, here's an actual god over here.
Oh right.
Yeah. So I really loved how they were intertwining that, and a lot of stuff with. I can't remember if this is a spoiler or not, so I'm just not going to say it. But the hidden city that you end up finding.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of that stuff is just really cool. I really enjoyed how they did it, and I'm really looking forward to playing Valhalla.
Yeah, like
because
this week. Yeah. I can't believe I don't have those on my list. Those are like, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go away and we're gonna like reinvent the series, and I was like, yeah, okay, like it's gonna come back out and it's gonna have 6,000 icons on the map. Like, you're not gonna do anything different. And it came back and it's like, oh yeah, no, you guys actually did that, and it turns out I'm sort of falling in love with I loved Syndicate, I loved Unity, like I've loved all the Assassin's Creed games, but for them to come back and be like, all right, we refined it and it's better than ever, it's like, oh no, it's too good.
That was kind of the issue, was that there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with all the Assassin's Creeds before these two. It was a yearly thing. It was turning into an EA Sports thing where it's like, hey, here's this game. We didn't really do a whole lot with it, but
now you need the app to open these chests. It's like, exactly. Oh god.
So I was just kind of getting burnt out on that. So them doing something completely, well, not completely brand new, but for them something completely different, and for them to actually do a really good job of it was like, man, that just really took me back, and I really enjoyed that.
God, those games are great.
And also, being able to ride a camel, being able to ride a camel in Origins was just stupid awesome. So,
and Moon's right, Cassandra for life, best Assassin's Creed character in the entire series. So good. My first game here is Axiom Verge. I think on the surface, Axiom Verge doesn't look like it's anything special. It's like, oh, you made like an 8 or 16-bit Metroidvania. Whoa, it's so crazy. One person made it. Wow. But then when you start playing it, I think if you haven't played a lot of Metroidvanias, it's probably really solid. But I think if you are a fan of the genre, I think how it twists and changes so many of these things throughout the game, I think that's what kept me so interested in it, where it's like, oh, I fell down this pit I can't get out of. I bet I get the double jump. And the game's like, nope. Here you go. You can phase through walls now. It's like, I'm sorry.
Like, or here's the weird bug launcher that turns you into the bug.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, I bet I have to turn into a ball and do this. It's like, nope, you're going to shoot yourself as a bug drone. Let's go. And it's like, wait, what the hell? Axiom Verge there isn't a whole ton to say about it. It's just one of those where you look at something like Ori and the Blind Forest, and you can say that's a really solid Metroidvania that doesn't break the mold at all, but it does what it does really well. Axiom Verge looks like kind of your standard Metroidvania that's trying to evoke a specific style, and then just kind of turns it on you at each and every point, and it's really great. And crazy weapons too.
Yeah, it doesn't even bring into the conversation like the digital gun and the weird crashes and effects and stuff like that you had when you went to certain walls and certain locations and got the stupid secret areas. It's just like,
like you break out of the game.
Yeah.
Axiom
Verge is one of the best Metroidvanias done. Period.
Yep. It's really funny when the art style, you start and the art style looks pretty good, but then you start getting to really big sprites and like really complicated sprite work, and you're like, wow, this is This is really impressive. Like, this is one of those games where it's evoking a style, but definitely couldn't be done on any other platform. And Axiom Verge is really great.
Yeah.
Moon, what's your next game?
So the reason for my madness, new to old, is about to become apparent.
Okay.
Let's talk about Hearthstone.
Oh, Hearthstone. Yeah.
Yeah, Hearthstone, a quintessential example of why Blizzard is Blizzard.
Yeah.
Which is to say that they took something that has been around for ages. They spent 17,000 years refining it, and then basically released a perfect product.
Right. It, like, to the point where it feels like it has been available for 20 years. It's like, yeah, Hearthstone, it's always been around, right?
Yep. It's a trading card game that got me to play trading card games.
Right.
Like, I don't play that kind of game, but I would still sit there and put hours and hours into the game, like on my bus rides to and from work, playing Hearthstone, getting the job done notification every 2 minutes. Like, they took this. They did the same thing with Overwatch. They did the same thing with the original Warcraft games. They did the same thing with WoW. They take a formula that is tried and tested, and they refine it to the point where it's essentially perfection.
Well, and I think, especially since we're talking about generational stuff, I feel like this was not the first, but the real first clear example of cross-device progression and cross stuff, because they're like, oh, it's coming out on PC and iOS and Android. And it's like, wait, how? Like, how are you going to do that? And they're like, oh, just sign in your Battle.net account and it just happens. Like, it just works. And it's like, oh my God, it does just work. Yeah. Right? Like, how'd you wizards do this?
And like, it was a game that at the time you didn't need to put money into. You could get everything you needed from the dailies, from everything else. I don't know what they've done to it since then, because I spent like a year and a half playing it and then stopped. But a year and a half is a lot for this kind of game.
Yeah.
And say what you want about the current state of it, but Blizzard made a trading card game, and don't get me wrong, Magic is huge. Magic has always been huge.
Oh, yeah.
Magic has always been nerdly huge. It felt like Hearthstone was the thing that took it to the next level, where it's like all of a sudden people in media know what it is and people in esports know what it is and everything else. It wasn't the Magic tournaments, and I don't mean to say that derisively as much as it sounds like it is. It was much bigger than that, and Blizzard have the money to put behind it to make it that big, and they succeeded.
And then they started releasing like single player story based expansions. It's like, wow, this is really going some places. Yeah. Like,
genuinely a game changer in the world of mobile games.
Yep.
And then in terms of like trading card games, well, Hearthstone has to be included in the generational conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hearthstone is great. Well, was great. I don't know what it's like now. Don't ask me.
Probably still great. Chances are
still
good.
A lot of people on Twitch playing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Nymph, tell me about you.
All right. My next game is Astral Chain on the Switch.
Oh, right.
There's
that shot that I was talking about.
But it's a short name.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, obviously a JRPG on the Switch. This game was really awesome. The fact that you are playing as a character that can control the legions, and you've got basically your rock, paper, scissors of, oh, hey, you've got your sword legion, you got your dog legion, and then you've got this massive beats the crap out of everything legion. Mm-hmm. Not to mention the fact that you also had it felt like a Persona game almost, in a weird way, where you weren't necessarily growing, brand new legions and mixing them and all this fun crap, but like the maps felt like that, the world kind of felt like that a little bit. And there was just so much extra fun stuff that you could do. Like later on, as you were getting into the game, you could start riding your legions to get past certain points in the map. Or like your dog, you can use your dog as a mount, run through the map, dig up certain areas, and get items and stuff. So then it started turning into this weird Metrovania type game.
Right.
There was just all kinds of cool stuff. The story was pretty all right. It's nothing brand new. We weren't killing a god this time.
Right.
Makes a change.
That was optional
Yeah.
DLC.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that was
Yeah.
the other thing too. This game had absolutely no DLC. All costumes, anything that you would want in this game, you could get in the game. No
Right.
DLC for it whatsoever. And that was something
Nice.
that they were pushing pretty hard, because at this point in time, this was a little after. It's like, oh, pay to have this costume for $90 or whatever.
Right.
On
Get the
whatever
swimsuit
game.
season pass. It's just like,
Mhm.
God.
So that was something that they were also pushing really hard. It's like, hey, everything is in this game. Everything you can get in this game just by playing the game.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of customization you can do. And it was just a really fun game. It was a lot of dumb, fun, stupid crap where it's like, oh, I just powered up and look at this thing I can do now. And
Yeah.
I just killed everything on this screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, really fun game.
Yeah.
Austin?
All right, Moon, strap in.
Okay.
The Binding of Isaac Rebirth.
Yep, that's definitely on my list.
See, you guys make fun of me about JRPGs. Nothing
No.
but roguelikes so far.
Yeah, that's...
Hey, Hearthstone is not a roguelike.
Yeah, one of them was a
Uh,
Metrovania. It's close. This is easily my most played game this generation across so many devices. Moon and I did a show for 67 episodes, all only about getting Moon into this game.
Yep. This game is responsible for me liking roguelikes.
Yeah.
That's
You
how
got thrown
important
to the
this game
wolves. It's just so many roguelikes. Like, we talked about Hades being this kind of incredible controlling experience, and the story continues run over run, and there's a lot of stuff. Binding of Isaac is just, it feels like it's not one of those games. It's more than happy to be difficult at the beginning, but it's never one of those games that sort of takes pleasure in kind of kicking you in the teeth. It will every once in a while, but that's not its run over run thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, soy milk.
Right. But it's also the sheer number of items and trinkets and things in this game. I believe we're on the cusp of the quote unquote final DLC for Binding of Isaac Rebirth.
Fine.
Yeah. He put that in quotes himself. And I think we're sitting at like 600 and change items, and this next DLC will introduce around 300 more. And it's just so many people misunderstand the point of roguelikes, and they say, well, they rely so much on luck, and they rely so much on you just getting the right build. But I think Isaac is where both Moon and I really appreciated what we call the flow chart. It's this item synergizes with this, or this enemy needs to be my priority, and it usually takes about 5 or 6 hits to kill, and you build this kind of knowledge base of what you need to do in the game and how you can break it and how you can take advantage of it. I think that's when roguelikes get really great, when they allow you to do that. And the sheer number of tools at your disposal for Isaac, I think helps that so much. I put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game on so many platforms, and I'm like, I know that the next DLC will come out on PC only for like the first 20 years of its life, so I'm like starting a new save file over there, and it's like super pumped to just start this game back over again. It's like, yeah, let's play more Isaac, and it's that game for me that just has literally never gotten old.
Yeah, and it's also a good example of a game that a dev can't let go, which is more particularly the case for indie devs rather than like corporations versions. But Edmund just can't seem to stop with Isaac. Like he could have stopped 3 DLCs ago, and it would have been a perfectly fine game.
Well, he put out the first DLC because he joked that his wife, who's like the original fan of Binding of Isaac, she ran out of content, and she's like, all right, is there is there more stuff for me to play? So like his joke was like, well, this DLC came out because my wife finished Binding of Isaac, and it very much is like, all right, I had like a handful more ideas, and that kind of blossomed into even more stuff, and whoops, here's a new piece of DLC. It's just like, it's like, all right,
and
more than happy.
It's a great example, and also it's a great example of like that refining as it goes. It's also a great example of the relationship between publishers and developers.
Right.
Is a good lesson to be learned from that particular aspect of things.
Right.
And I just did my Xbox story. True Achievements has got a thing where they're basically doing an account roundup for your Xbox history of play since the 360, apparently, basically. And it's like, your most played game, The Binding of Isaac.
Right.
23 days, 17 hours or something like that I've put into that game.
Jeez.
Like,
yeah, it is easily one of my favorite games of all time. You know, there's people always say like, oh, what's your favorite games of all time? And people sort of hem and haw. It's like, this one's really easy. It's the one I put the most time into. It's, in my opinion, one of the best roguelikes. And I think it's an incredible game. And it's an incredible, I think you nailed it on the head, Moon. It's an incredible, like, vision from one single creator. That's like, I want this urine and feces soaked Legend of Zelda to be this thing. And it comes out and it's like, yeah, you made it. You made your unique, like, singular thing. And it turned out to be really, really great.
mm-hmm. And like, also he made a card game version of it.
Right. And like a spin-off game and like...
Yeah, it's not that we're biased here or anything. For those of you who don't watch the live stream, behind me every week, I have my Binding of Isaac plushies on the shelf way behind me.
Guppy being the cutest. Yeah.
He's always here.
Yeah.
Always.
It's an incredible game. We talked about it for about 67-hour-long episodes, so you can go listen to The Binding of Moonpier, Boston Rebirth if you want to hear way more. But yeah, it's one of my favorite games of all time, and it's astounding that it came out. The Rebirth version came out this generation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Moon, you're up next.
Okie doke. We're going to reverse it back to modern times again here.
Okay.
I'm going to have to try and come up with a fancy hip way of saying let's flip the switches over and over and over again here. Spiritfarer.
Yeah.
A game which has its problems. Animation priority, that GD achievement making me play through the halfway through the game again, but that's not the game's problem.
Right.
That's my problem.
It has some writing problems, too, that the developers have addressed. It's certainly not a perfect game.
No.
Mm-hmm. But in the year of our Lord, 2019/2020,
right,
it was the game I needed this year. Like, it was the chilled out, relaxing, like, just cool vibes kind of game. The next thing you know, you're bawling in tears because you have to say goodbye to somebody who has a questionable character, but kind of a justifiably questionable character.
And it is relentlessly optimistic about the value of people. And I think it's in 2020 that has been greatly appreciated.
And like, it's even relentlessly optimistic in the value of death.
Yes. Yep. As like the part of the journey.
Yeah. Like it's embraces that in not a morbid way, but very much like the Irish do, in a very celebratory way, where it's like, no, it's a bad time and we feel bad and everything, but let's look at the positives. Like,
let's celebrate
that this person has had on the world.
Right.
And, probably one of the best cat animations I've ever seen in a video game, period.
Well, some of the best animations, like, just one of those games where you look at it and you're like, man, it just, every single frame of animation on every single character is just built with so much love. And you could tell that they just loved making this game.
Yeah. Genuinely great. Nymph, any thoughts?
Yeah.
I was just thinking that a lot of the story was pretty good. The only issue I ever had with this game was just the quests. Like, if just
Yeah.
But outside of that, though, I mean, the story was just good enough to keep pulling you along. And even like you were saying earlier, there are some characters where you're like, I hate this character.
Right.
I just
like you're
want
a
them off
super
the boat.
scumbag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get them off the boat, and it's like, okay, they kind of could have maybe been a good person.
Right. Or like I could see how their personal history may have shaped them into the person they became. So maybe it's not entirely their fault, but maybe it's a problem with nurture instead of nature.
That and the shipbuilding in this game too.
Oh, so good.
I have the most unorthodox ship ever.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It's like I feel like you were forced to build this like ramshackle floating city because nothing really fits together well.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me that's part of the charm, where I really want to organize everything into like a perfect ship, and the game is like, no, you literally cannot do that. You have to just make it work.
I did that too until Moon had brought up about the empty space and being able to collect things easier.
Right.
So I shoved everything to the left side of my ship, and I was like, oh my god, this does make it so much easier.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Spiritfarer is an incredible game, and
Yep.
you should probably go play it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mr.
It's on Game
Nimble.
Pass. Yeah. All right, Nimp, what about you?
So I have a game that all three of us have played,
Okay.
and all three of us potentially liked.
Okay.
Okay. Potentially is a scary word there.
Right.
That game is Control.
Yeah.
Yep.
Control is dope.
I'll just get my highlighter here.
Cross that off my list.
All right. So I really loved this just because I really like reading the SCPs, Secure, Contain, Protect online. And that's a lot of what this game is, and a lot of what they took between that, and I can't remember what they say, Twin Peaks and something else. There was like three things that they took there.
Yeah, I don't remember what the third one was.
Yeah. But either way, the fact that they referenced this was really awesome. And the game itself, barring the combat, which seems to be the thing that everyone kind of unanimously dislikes.
Hey, I didn't mind it. I liked it a lot. But
I liked it a lot too.
But everyone else seemed to absolutely hate the combat in this game. But barring that, this game was just really, really great. The story was well put together. Just finding the random documents. This is one of the few games that I platinumed because I wanted to read more about the random stuff that they found.
Like, I'm still missing collectibles. What? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the fact that even when you got to the containment area in this game, and you could see some of the things that you had been reading the documents for, and the fact that they put so much like with the carriage that you find.
Mm-hmm.
And you read in the documentation that if you look at it, it produces a little wisp of smoke every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find that thing in the containment cell, and if you really look at it, you can faintly see wisps of smoke coming off of this thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just all the detail that they put into this crap. It's just really awesome. I really enjoyed it.
It was my game of the year last year. For it, like you said, it 100% has problems. There's difficulty spikes and checkpointing problems that they've smoothed out over time, from what I understand. But just one of 2019's best scenes and one of 2019's best set pieces in the ashtray maze. Like, just one of those things where you're like, yeah, all right. This is an incredible piece of video game content that I have never seen before somehow.
And I also like the fact that they seem to be taking everything that Remedy has done, and they're like, oh yeah, if you look at Control and everything else that we've done, because of what's happening in Control, this is all kind of related.
Yeah, like it's all in the same universe. Look, here's Alan Wake stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, all right.
And here's some hints about Max Payne mixed in there as well, just for fun, without outright naming it, because obviously it can't.
Right.
And it features Boston's favorite thing, which is in-world office documentation.
Oh god, it's so good. Just like infighting between office workers about minutia and mundane stuff in the oldest house is just like, yeah, man,
like,
that's the good stuff.
Also, like the stuff like where it's like, is that your stapler? Did you have a stapler there beforehand? Like,
Right.
the posters and everything all over the walls is so good.
Yep.
Don't eat the mold.
Right. Don't eat the mold. Yeah. Control is 100% my type of game, and we'll say it again. It's definitely not a perfect game, but an incredible experience. Like, Remedy games are really great, and I feel like Control is like the distillation of all the lessons they learn. And there's like, all right, we're just putting out another great game. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My next game is Celeste. My list is in alphabetical order. If we haven't guessed, Moon's crossing it off. Just one of, if not the best controlling single-screen platformers in a really long time. And eventually the game breaks out of the single-screen stuff, but just so incredibly tight in the way that last generation we would have been really praising Super Meat Boy for. Where it's,
100%, this feels like this generation's Super Meat Boy with Celeste.
Yep. Yeah, it's like you know exactly what you're going to do at every time. You know exactly how many dashes you have. You know exactly how long you're going to hold onto a wall. And you see the exit. You just need to manage to get yourself there. Probably one of the larger tentpole releases for accessibility options this generation. Where really,
let's make sure we talk about that, because that is a work of art in that game.
Yeah, because it's. I think it's an expectation now that was set. It's a twofold expectation that was set with Celeste. One is have a lot of accessibility options to make the game accessible for those that may not be able to play it in its default state. And don't shame anybody who needs to play it. Like, so many games before this would say, like, oh, yeah, we'll turn on infinite life just in case you really suck. Ha ha ha. Yep. And this game's like, I don't care why you're turning it on. If you want to use it, if you need it, if you just want to play around with it, that's cool. It's here. It's here for you, whatever you need. And I think that was a real huge tentpole release, not just for the options, but also for the way that it respects the player itself. To say, like, these are here for you, and there are no judgments. I think that's huge.
Also, let's talk about the fact that it's a mental health story.
Yeah, like a really mature telling of a very solid mental health story. It's Celeste, and incredible music by Elena Rain. Mm-hmm. Like, that whole soundtrack
including B-sides.
Yep, yeah, B-sides are fiendishly difficult in the game, but it's one of those few games where it's like, if you get that perfect run, or like you're doing one of those things where you're outrunning the other part of me, where you're like doing this perfect, I'm gonna zap through these like star cubes, and that's gonna shoot me over, and I'm gonna bounce, and then fall and shoot back through the other side of it, and then like, it's just one of those games where when it comes together, and it comes together really early in that game, it feels super great. Where you're like, yeah, I'm doing a speed run now. It's like, yeah, it's so cool.
It's the Tetris effect for platformers.
Yes.
Like Super Meat Boy had it, this has it. Like, it's that feeling of Rayman actually had a really good, Rayman Origins had the same thing.
Yeah, it's such a good game.
Get that flow, and it's just so perfect and so fulfilling to feel like, yeah, okay, cool, I did it perfectly. I got to the exit. I even got the special little cherry on the way because I'm a crazy person.
That's right. Celeste is great. People, it's one of those games that everybody has talked about for the last couple of years, so I don't really want to belabor the point, but Celeste is another one of those games where it's like, yes, this is really good, and it might not be for you. You might not like the difficulty. You might not like platformers. That's all cool. It's still something I would recommend to really give a shot. Moon, your next game.
My next couple of games have something in common.
Okay.
You'll probably guess what the next game after this one is, based solely off this one.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about Warframe.
Yep.
How a tiny team,
Yes.
a tiny company, put out a free-to-play game and have somehow built an average game when it first came out. Fun, dumb, like doing
Had a
slide,
troubled
triple jump.
launch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like fun and stupid in all the right ways when it first came out, and
Yep.
now it is potentially one of the best games as a service games out there.
Like, radically different from what it was at launch in like the best way.
Dude, year to year, it is radically different.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think they're on their 40th update now.
Something
It's
like
something.
that.
30s, yeah.
But you
It's
could still
crazy.
do like the same dumb stuff you could do at the beginning. You could do the knee slide to the triple jump to the straight vertical jump to climb
Yep.
onto a wall and just.
And now you can be a bard with your keyboard that plays music in the game that actually does damage to enemies. And it's like, oh, okay.
like it's one of the first examples of this generation of a dev supporting something.
Yep.
And then having that community build up around it and just slowly but surely grow and grow and grow.
An army of Tennos.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
and a complete army of Tennos. They have a convention every year.
TennoCon.
Like, yeah,
TennoCon's real good.
they have some ridiculous fan art. The less we talk about that, the better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it somehow evolved into this perfect storm of a really tight-knit community who there are some toxic people in there, as there will be in every
Sure.
community, but you ever say to somebody, oh, I want to play Warframe, but I don't know how. If somebody knows how to play it and somebody is into it, they will 1000% be like, okay, cool, let me show you how.
Yeah,
Let
you
me
hear
bring you into this
15
world.
sets of feet running towards you like, I'll help you. Let me help you.
Like, it's an incredible community with at this point, a genuinely shockingly huge game. Like,
Yes.
like they've got so many different modes in there that they never had before. They've got all of the jetpack stuff with like the flying stuff going on now as
Yep.
well. They redid basically one of the first planets in the game and made it a huge open world area. It's just okay, cool. You guys are clearly having fun over there developing for this game, and congratulations, you somehow made one of the best games of the generation simply by just sticking with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they had lean times throughout the years, but still, what they've done it's something genuinely special.
Yeah.
It's the best free-to-play model in that you quite literally do not need to put any money into this game unless you want cosmetics.
Yep.
But the best thing is,
Anything else can be made.
and the best thing is you can you can increase your inventory spaces and stuff like that, which is something that they have a limit on. But if you sit there, like I didn't realize it at one point, but I got like a really rare prime armor drop, but only the chest plate. I didn't get the hat, I didn't get the legs, so I can't create a full suit with it. I didn't know what it was. So I literally went on the in-game marketplace and sold that chest for premium currency
Oh, wow.
that allowed me to increase my inventory spaces. Because
Nice.
somebody who had spent real money was looking for this, had the premium currency, and then I sold him my blueprint so he could make this thing to finalize his collection. And
That's
I
cool.
got premium currency from it. How many games allow you to trade the premium currency?
Right.
And let's say that too. It's literally a system in the game that you
Right,
can
yeah.
trade.
It's not some
It's
shady
not-
third-party
There wasn't
site.
some Craigslist stuff that he was going through.
Right.
It's a masterclass of the small team doing great things.
Yeah.
But yes,
All
that is
And it
Warframe.
looks gorgeous as hell too.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Really good.
Mhm.
All right,
But
Nip,
yes,
your next game.
My next game, and I feel kind of bad that I was also doing it in alphabetical order, is Death Stranding.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Have this
I'm
on
not
my
gonna
list.
highlight this one because it's not on my list.
Yeah, this one was popping on off of my list because it's Death Stranding.
Yeah, it's Kojima.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it because it is Kojima, and I just love the crazy off the wall stuff that this guy just puts out there.
Hmm.
And it was an interesting game.
Yeah.
Everyone belittled it for being a walking simulator. It's not.
That was my favorite part, though. Like, I liked it
Yeah,
being a delivery
exploring.
simulator, where it's like,
Yeah,
this is the most relaxing thing I have played in a couple of years. This is great.
and then you fall off a cliff by accident because you weren't paying attention, and
I drowned in the water. It's too deep. No, my
Yeah.
cargo.
but just running around with the cargo, trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B. In any other game, you would just be like, "Oh, I would just climb this mountain." But in this one, you're like,
Right.
"Okay, I have so much cargo right now. If I climb up this side of the hill, maybe it'll give me enough, of an angle where
Right.
I'm not just straight up climbing this mountain." And you get all the way to the top, and then you drop a line so that way it's easier for you the next time.
Yep.
Mhm.
I mean,
And like the community stuff with people building zip lines and highways and leaving trucks around, and just like this Death Stranding is really cool.
yeah,
That stupid like thing though. Every time
That's
you
the
run
best
past one
part.
of them. Yeah.
especially in the story, when something would happen and a character in the middle of a cutscene would turn to you and give you a thumbs up. Yeah, and it would do the noise. And everything.
So good.
stupid.
I was just mashing that touchpad all the time, like
Yeah.
ding 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 ding
Yeah.
ding ding.
But I
Keep on,
Really-
keep it on.
really loved the game and just the dumb crap that was happening in this game.
Yep.
Full credit where it's due. That game is gorgeous.
Oh, it's
Like,
really great.
genuinely gorgeous.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun to explore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The less we talk about the crazy bosses in that game, the better.
Yeah. It's a
literally don't need to
Kojima
think
game.
about DJ Space Whale.
Yeah. Yeah.
All you needed was your urine grenades and you were good to go.
Yeah. No big
Yep.
deal.
Mm-hmm.
My next game, I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about, but it's the Danganronpa trilogy. I've talked about this a ton for the last couple years to anybody that's like, I like visual novels. I was like, oh, that's me. The Danganronpa trilogy is, there have been a lot of like trilogies of visual novels. Some of them have been really good, like this trilogy. Some of them have petered out by the end, like the 999 Zero Escape series, which is not on my list. I think Danganronpa succeeds so much on being a really interesting variation of a killing game. So everybody's trapped in here, and the way to get out is you just gotta kill someone. And it's like, wait, what?
Yep.
And having a genuinely likable but insane villain in Monokuma, and
Which is the black and white panda, I believe. Correct?
yeah, the black and white bear, yeah, and he's really great. Every time he says a body's been discovered, you're like, oh, god, no. Really great stories that chain between the two of them. 1 goes to 2, goes to V3, and really great. Some of the best translations here in the U.S. Visual novels don't always get really great attention, and they're genuinely. And when you get to the point where you're doing the trial, really great puzzles, really great twists and turns that the game is taking you on at the same time the characters are going on, which is often not the case. Often you know way more than the characters are, and you're like, yeah, okay, like let's get to the point where you figure it out. And it's like, wait, who did do this? Wait, why weren't you in the room? Where were you? And like taking those twists and turns at the same time is really super satisfying. And they made 3 of them, and then they stopped. They said, like, we made the story, we're done. And
Did you ever get your pins, by the way? Your Vita pins?
Yeah, they're behind me.
Around here somewhere.
In the pin pile.
And the pile of collection.
Yeah, it's bad.
The only
back
reason
there.
I knew about them was because of Monokuma. I was like,
Yeah.
oh wait, that's the thing from the thing that Boston loves. I'm just going to send this his direction.
Yeah, it's really great. I don't want to talk too much about it because I could talk about it forever, and they're visual novels, so you sort of know what to expect. But yeah, the whole Danganronpa trilogy is really, really great. And I'm gonna toss it over to you, Moon.
Speaking of not talking about something for long, I'm definitely not going to talk about this one for long because This is one of the more recent games, and also I talk about it every week. Hey, it's Apex Legends, everybody.
Yep. I'd be surprised if that wasn't on this list for just being an incredible game.
Yeah. Everyone has their Battle Royale choice.
Right.
Everyone does. Yours is Fortnite at the moment. Clearly, we know this. You love Fortnite.
Fortnite's very good.
Nims is wrestling with his kids every day and being in work in an IT field.
Hey, I played... Wow, I can't remember the Call of Duty one all of a sudden.
Warzone?
That's how much I played it. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
By the way, the only reason I know that it's called Warzone is because it says Warzone on the front of the game that I'm playing, which is called Modern Warfare, not Warzone. It's so confusing every time I load it up.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has their Battle Royale choice. Apex Legends is mine. I'm not a fan of hero shooters. I hate the Valve one with the spies and the soldiers.
Team Fortress 2.
Thank you. And the sandwiches was going to be my next one.
The sandwiches. The hats and the sandwiches. It's like, all right, Team Fortress.
I don't like hero shooters, like, at all.
Yeah.
And yet, somehow, this hero shooter Battle Royale has been a game which I have been consistently playing for almost 2 years now.
Yep.
And despite the fact that it's owned by EA, I do feel like EA try and push forward some negative things, and it seems to me like Respawn are like, okay, we'll do things your way, but the second we get a wall of complaints, we change it to the way we want it to do.
Right.
All you have to do for proof of that is go look at Season 1's Battle Pass compared with Season 2, compared with Season 3, compared with Season 4. Season 6 just dropped, and it was way too harsh. A day later, they fixed it and adjusted it all back down.
Unlike day 2, they're like, yeah, we made a mistake. We're sorry about that. Here were our goals. Here's how we're fixing it. That fixes live. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And to be honest, let's face it, it was probably an EA mandate that
Probably.
it be harder.
You got the good cop, bad cop there.
Yes. Obviously, they're still going to do things wrong, but the fact that they've introduced a whole bunch of heroes, I think at this point, and I'm glad to say this, the women outstripped the number of men in the game, because there's like
by far,
2 robots and all of the women, and I'm absolutely fine with that. It's a game which I still play every week. It's a game which I love, and as Boston said, Pathfinder is still cute.
He's the cutest. Love him.
So
cutest robot.
Tune in to the regular show to hear me continually talking about Apex Legends.
Yeah.
Nimp, take it away.
All right, my next game is Destiny, the first one.
Go. How dare you?
So, when the first one came out, I was not really interested in it. And at probably 2 old jobs ago now, a bunch of people started talking about it. And then I kind of got into it. And then it just turned into a work thing where a bunch of us from work started our own group. And we did nothing but play this game nonstop.
Right.
Which was really awesome. I loved the... they don't even call them dungeons. What do they call them?
Raids.
Thank you. The raids that you had in them, because a lot of them took a lot of skill and a lot of patience and a lot of time, especially if it was your first time through. I can remember trying to do the Vault of Glass so many times to the point of my wife being angry because we had spent 6 hours on a Friday night and we weren't even halfway through the stupid thing.
Sounds about right. Yep.
Yeah.
The best thing about that is when you first loaded up Destiny 2, it's like the first time you did Vault of Glass was with these people. And then you realize it's 6 people you no longer play games with.
Yep. Very much so.
And it was just a lot of fun. Like, you would show up, you would blow up a bunch of stuff. There was a story. The story was okay. It wasn't going to win any it wasn't going to win any awards, but it was pretty alright. It was enough to keep you going and feeling like you were contributing something. You were mostly there for the weapon drops, which at the time the drops weren't that great percentage-wise to get. Because I didn't get the Gallahorn until the day before they nerfed that stupid rocket launcher, and everyone had it for a year at that point.
I was in the same spot where they're finally selling it. Oh no!
Yep. But I mean, I could see part of where they were trying to go with the whole thing of each weapon has its own story kind of thing.
Yeah.
And for me, it was dumb stories like that where I had the Thunderlord machine gun was my first
so
legendary, epic, whatever they called it, weapon that I got. Barely ever used it, but it made everybody else mad because I was the only one in our entire group who got it.
Right.
Nobody else got that thing for like months afterwards. And my story was just the Galahorn. Like I said, I got screwed out of that one. But yeah, I had a lot of fun playing it with friends and coworkers, and it's really good memories.
Yeah.
That's all I got for that. Boston.
My next game is Darkest Dungeon. Probably one of the cruelest games on my list.
1,000%, dude. That's probably one of the cruelest games in existence. Never mind on your list.
It delights in punishing you for playing it, but it's not an insurmountable goal. And I think that's what I liked so much about it is it will push you down to make you better, and I'm fully cognizant that no human on this planet has ever finished Darkest Dungeon, so of course I have not finished it. But the journey and building up your team and finding the synergies and like leveling up your town and your characters, and just it's one of those games that just oozes with so much style, even though there's not a lot of animations, there's not a lot of stuff going on. Like, when you attack an enemy, it kind of like zooms in on both of you and like a sword swipe effect shows up on screen and makes a sound effect, but like how it evokes all of that is so good. And God, that narrator, just like the perfect narrator to like encourage you and kind of make fun of you a little bit at the same time. Darkest Dungeon is so good, and it's one of those games that I can like recommend to virtually nobody unless you could find joy in this specific thing, but I love it so much.
Oh, by the way, Nimp, you'd probably love that game.
Yeah.
I've looked at it.
Yeah. It's
It's
very
on
good.
the list of things to check out.
Right. Yeah, Generation 8's things to check out. Yeah. Moon, what's your next one?
This is the other game that has a lot in common with Warframe. And I know I've got some fellow commanders in the audience here.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Because, of course, it's Elite Dangerous.
Yep.
Like, a small team again. A kickstarted game, folks.
Yeah.
This was a Kickstarter that has evolved way beyond anything I ever thought it would be. Like, you're basically talking about it's going to be doing No Man's Sky level of stuff, except realistic.
Also,
soon.
a sequel to Elite, like 20 years later.
I'm pretty sure they also have some of the same original dev crew.
I believe so,
Kickstarter as well.
Yep.
It's the only reason why it's called Elite Dangerous, I believe, is because they couldn't get the name Elite. Like, they literally couldn't buy it.
They couldn't say, like, this is Elite 2.
Yeah. So, yeah, I traveled to the center of the universe. Two of us have traveled to the center of the universe.
It makes my head hurt thinking about it again.
Right.
I mean,
it's one of those games. It's one of those games we've talked about consistently on this show for years. Like, that's how much you guys have lived in this game. Not negatively, but like, I got my own problems that I'll talk about here in a minute. But like, you know, it's one of those games where it's just like, yeah, I got a bunch of stuff to do, and I kind of just like living in that world.
Yeah, it's the perfect space trucker sim. Like, it's the perfect do what you want in space kind of game. Like, you want to be a space trucker, go do that.
You want to blow something up, do that.
Yeah.
It's got a story in it that I haven't touched, and I'm 400 hours into this game.
It has political warfare and factions that I haven't touched because it's just it's too complicated to just get into that. I just want to do space stuff, please.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculously deep, ridiculously good. It looks beautiful.
Yes.
And like Boston said, we've talked about it for years. Go play it or don't. Just watch a video. You'll figure it out sooner or
Go
later.
listen to literally any other episode of this show.
Yeah, do a search
Just
for Elite Dangerous.
YouTube Elite Dangerous, capital ship incoming, and if that doesn't sell you, you're dead inside.
There you go.
Yeah, Elite Dangerous is great. Go play Elite Dangerous. Nimp.
My next one, Dragon Quest XI.
Yep, I got that. I got that on my list too.
God, do I love the Dragon Quest series.
Yeah.
And I hate that there's so much controversy behind the music.
Yeah, the scumbag of a human that makes the music, yes.
Literally know nothing about this series except for the music issue.
Well, so the thing that I think is so interesting about the Dragon Quest series is from the first one to the 11th one, it has literally changed like 1%. Like, it is a super traditional, very straightforward, absolutely turn-based, party-based JRPG. And it's so good at what it does, and it's such comfort food that you're like, all right, another one is coming out, and it's exactly like the one before. It has a brand new story, and it looks better, and it has all that stuff. But, like, it's one of those things where another one comes out, and you're like, yeah, I'm ready for some comfort food. I'm ready for, like, a largely pretty easy game that has great music, and it's a blue sky game for like 99% of the time. Like, the bad guys aren't really that bad. They just like want to take over the world.
Is this Call of Duty for the JRPG generation?
No.
Well,
where it changes 1% and it's basically the same game with a new story every year?
Well, story-wise, maybe a little bit, but it's not mindless.
No, it's definitely not mindless. It's just like it is like a warm blanket where you're like, all right, here's another Dragon Quest. Like, where Final Fantasy reinvents itself so frequently, Dragon Quest is really happy to be like, yes, this is a Dragon Quest game. You sort of know what to expect, and here's some classes this time. Here's like 5 different stories in this one this time, but it's very much
sure
similar.
In every Dragon Quest game, the first enemy you fight is a blue slime.
Mm-hmm. A slime approaches.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's that kind of JRPG.
They're so
But it's really good. I still really love the characters.
Yep.
I felt that they're... Oh, I can't remember. Was his name Andre?
Which guy?
The gay character in this game.
Sylvando?
Sylvando, that's right.
Yep.
I felt, considering issues that the Japanese culture generally has with the gay community...
Yeah.
I felt, and correct me if I'm wrong as a straight white male, that this character was handled a lot better than same characters in the past.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So I really enjoyed that. And that's what also helped me with this game a lot, too, is that even though it's just a fun blue sky game, they are working on trying to make improvements and making things a bit more serious where it needs to be, where he's not the quote-unquote flamboyant gay person group who's always hitting on everything around, kind of character. He has legitimate feelings, a legitimate story. You know, he has legitimate issues that he is dealing with, So outside of that, though, it was just a really fun game, and I really miss turn-based RPGs.
Yeah, it's one of those RPGs or JRPGs that I can wholeheartedly recommend to everyone. Like, it is just, it's not super difficult. You can make it really difficult if you want. It's nothing in there is super confusing, and it has a really solid story that, like, connects to Dragon Quest 3. Like, they're closing the loop on, like, some older stuff. It's just incredibly solid.
So that's all I got for that.
My next one here is Destiny and Destiny 2. I shared similar feelings to you on Destiny, but I think Destiny, for me, I talked about it like this before, that's really my third place. For most people, it's like work and your house are your first 2 places. Your third place is really where you like to spend your time, especially your escapism time. There's another one that I probably don't need to talk about very much at all, because I talk about this fairly frequently on the show, but
and there's huge updates coming down the line for that too, real quick.
On Tuesday. Yay. I'm very much trying to contain my excitement over that because I'm like vibrating where it's like it's 2 more sleeps. But to me, I think Destiny, like you were talking about, Nimp, it's the combination of Bungie's incredible gunplay perfected past how well it was in Halo with a now really satisfying loot treadmill game. Because over the years they've gotten better and better and better with it. It was really bad when the first game first came out, but they've learned their mistakes and they've learned the lessons and they've refined it. But on top of that, encouraging that community and the teamwork, and we have a raid team going on now on the Discord server, and six of us dads go every Friday, and we're going through a whole bunch of raids, and we are super excited for the raid that's coming out here on the 21st, because now we'll be able to do like a new raid and learn it alongside each other, and it's really great. And that community, whether it's on Reddit or Twitter or our own community, that's the stuff that really is like the final glue that holds together an incredible game that I have put. I just looked at how much time it is on there, and it's approaching 2,000 hours over the entire franchise's history. So you want to talk about, my second...
I wasn't expecting the 2K. I was expecting less than Isaac.
It's over Destiny 1 and 2, so it's like the entire franchise's history.
Still.
But
believe it or not, I've got quite a few hours in Destiny 1 and 2 as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be shocked by, considering I never talked about it.
Yeah, and it's one of those games too that like I've been sherpaing a lot of people into getting into it, because the game as it stands now, before Beyond Light comes out, is not, to put it nicely, is not welcoming to new players. And I don't get anything for that. There's no like, oh, you welcomed your 15th new player into the game, you get an exotic drop or whatever. There's nothing for that, and I'm still like chomping at I'm getting another person into the game right now, where it's like, just download it and log in, and you'll be ready you can get it on Game Pass. All of it's on Game Pass.
I've seen the community reaching out to you on Twitter and be like, no, people, no.
Yes. Come to my web.
Black hole.
Yes. And you have your own website.
I do, DestinyMoonCollector.com.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Which looks really nice.
Oh, thank you.
I saw your updates.
Yeah. There's a lot of work to do with the new season. But yeah, Destiny and Destiny 2, it's one of those games that means a lot to me in a way that I could probably explain if you give me the next 2 hours to talk about it, but it's one of those things where it has grabbed me, and I love so much about these two fantastic, really crazy, stupid games. So, Moon, your next game.
Are we ready for a change of pace?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm breaking my own rules. I'm going directly to the middle of my list because I need to talk about it now.
Okay.
What Remains of Edith Finch?
Yes. Oh, God, yes. Ah, Edith Finch.
One of the best... What is it? Walking games? Story games? I don't know how you define them anymore.
And story anthology playable experiences?
Yeah. Playable experience is probably the best descriptor for it. I feel bad because I didn't give this game of the year it came out.
100%.
Because every other game I played in 2017, it may have been good, it may have been great, whatever. I do not think about those games on the frequency which I think about What Remains of Edith Finch.
I still think about that game all the time.
The cannery section alone, is probably one of the best moments in gaming, period, in my opinion. It's a fantastic game, a touching, heartwarming story, told well. A little bit loopy and crazy at first, but it kind of loops itself back around, and genuinely a shock as to how great that thing is.
Yeah.
And I will never stop singing its praises. Anytime anyone says to me, what should I get on this console? It's like, oh, is Edith Finch on it? Get it now.
Yep. Just It will take you like 6 hours to play through it, and it is
Currently on Game
genuinely
Pass.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
play it.
a no-brainer. It's genuinely a memorable experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Yes. What remains to be the Finch? Name it.
Well, because Moon had already stole mine since I'm the other commander on the show. So, Elite Dangerous was the next one that I was going to talk about, but the only other thing that I have to add to that is not only did I put a lot of time in this, I actually bought an extra peripheral. So I have a home
Oh,
pass,
right. Yep.
which is great, and I
Yep.
very rarely buy extra stuff for consoles. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so yeah, that's it. Just buy Elite Dangerous. Boston.
What? What?
Well, I'm passing it to you, and I'm telling you to buy Elite Dangerous.
Oh, my next game, Doom 2016.
Let me get my highlighter out here.
Moon was just talking about, I wish I had played that in the year it came out because it would have been the best game of the year. Hey, that's Doom 2016. I grew up, I was born in 81, so I grew up with PCs in my entire life, but primarily when Doom and Quake and Wolf 3D, like all of its great historic shooters came out. Like I was there when it happened. So Doom, they're not incredible games. I mean, they are in some fashions, but they mean something as someone who was a fan of PC games then, and they're part of, you know, my growing up with video games. And to hear that they were coming out with another Doom was like, yeah, okay, well, just like Quake 4, I bet it's gonna be real good, huh?
No. Specifically, Bethesda was coming
Right.
out with another Quake game.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't believe you, and I think it's going to be bad. And it came out, everyone's like, this game is incredible. I was like, I don't believe you. I feel like it's probably pretty
Even
bad.
when we talked about it on the show,
And,
you
well,
were
and when
No,
you
no.
were saying it was really great with no history of Doom, I was like, okay, all right, maybe now we're talking. You're a trusted source. Maybe now we're talking about something. They nailed it. I mean, they nailed this the attitude of Doom without like being slaven to the 90s. They brought it forward. They made a game where it's really fun to shoot those weapons and destroy demons and punch them in half, and they made a game with a really good story for a Doom game.
shocking. Like,
There's not
The
a lot of
first-
it, thankfully.
no, dude, there is if you go and read the lore entries like that.
Oh,
game,
sure,
that's got
sure.
So much depth.
Yeah.
But like that first level is such a perfect
Oh.
introduction to that game.
Yep.
Like,
like-
I'm Samuel Hayden. I can help you escape. You just need
Right.
to listen to me. And he punches the screen, and it's just like, yeah, okay.
Punching every screen. Oh, it's so good. Doom 2016 is there's very little wrong with it, and it is just a blast to play from front to back. It's just
And-
a great game.
Also worth shouting out to the music in that game.
Oh god, just yep, like just great stuff. Over to you.
Okay. I'm gonna have to get this one out the way, aren't I? Ori and the Blind Forest. We talked about
Yep.
Axiom Verge earlier. Ori and the Blind Forest is a game by a tiny studio who Microsoft saw with some potential and snapped up as quick as they could.
Right.
Because this is a game that looks completely different to everything else that was coming out at the time.
Mhm.
Like, it immediately caught your attention because it was hand painted, like everything like had depth of field. The game looks beautiful. Oh, and by the way, it's got one of the single best pieces of music in history attached to it. Like, the music for Ori is one of the best things about it. And oh, by the way, here's the introduction level, and yes, you are crying.
Right. It's the beginning of Up All Over Again, where it's like, it's 5 minutes into this game. How could they?
And then they back that up with probably one of, as you mentioned, it's very similar to its predecessors, but one of the best definitions of a Metroidvania you could possibly have. Like, the skill unlocks, the abilities, like the health upgrades, everything that you do in that game is very classical Metroidvania,
Yep.
where it's done basically to perfection. until about 2 years later, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point during these lists. Hold on, let me check.
It might be in
2
my
years later.
H section.
Yes, that will be in your H section.
Yeah.
Like, Ori is a fantastic game. And we did it for Game Club, so there's a whole episode dedicated to it there if you want to go and listen to some real in-depth stuff. But Ori is a fantastic game. Go play it.
Yeah, it's great.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, there we go.
This game is not only beautiful, it plays well, and it has a pretty good story. And is just a game that everyone should play.
Yeah.
When you have Japanese developers saying that this American company made a good Japanese game about Japan, you know you've done something right.
And now with a surprising multiplayer expansion with raids, and everyone says, whoops, they're really good.
Yeah, which is surprisingly well. Definitely one of those things where it's like, nobody asked for this, but holy crap, is this really fun.
Yeah.
So. It's the Power developers, isn't it? The people who made the superhero
Infamous.
games. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sucker Punch.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a really awesome game. Everyone should check it out.
It's one of those games that's like, I'll get around to that eventually.
Right.
Save it for the current gen consoles where you get faster loading speeds and better graphics. And I'm pretty sure they said they were going to throw ray tracing in there.
Great. Why not? Yeah, bring it in.
Why not? Because the photos weren't good enough already.
Exactly. Right. You have no reason but to say yes.
That's right. That's right. My next game is one I can't talk about. It's Doki Doki Literature Club.
Yep.
Awesome.
Let me just highlight this off my list right now. We literally cannot mention anything about this game.
It is maybe 4 hours long. It is a visual novel that... Only thing I like to say is it is a visual novel that isn't what it seems. And because of that, I can't talk about it. But it's one of those games where when I think about the back half of that game, I just think that, like, man, you made a thing that defies what your expectations are of a genre, a lot like Axiom Verge, but also of the game's own material. And it is absolutely a game I cannot recommend to everyone. It comes with a content warning about a mile long.
Yeah, pay attention to that content warning.
And take it very, very seriously.
Yeah, it is not a joke where it's like, oh, content warnings, bleh. It's like, no, for real. It's a free game. If that content warning are things that are going to affect you, I genuinely do not play this game. But if those things are things that will not affect you, play through this game. It is like Edith Finch. It is a singular experience that I probably will never forget this game in good and bad ways.
I played this and then Edith Finch back to back. And we did a spoiler cast for the DLC as well.
Yeah, we did spoiler cast for both of those actually. Yeah, for 2-3 years ago, something like that. But yeah, Doki Doki Literature Club is really great. You should go play it, and if you've not gotten it spoiled, don't look anything up. It's required reading.
Yeah.
All right, Moon, over to you.
Okie doke.
Uh-oh.
I'm debating which one to talk about.
Okay.
Who cares? Let's go back into the world of roguelikes. Crypt of the Necrodancer.
How do I not have that on my list?
There's that reaction I'm talking about.
Come on.
Take another shot.
God, this game.
Potentially one of the greatest games ever made.
Yep.
Like, it's a rhythm-based roguelike game which should not work in the slightest.
Nope.
And somehow it does.
Yep.
The only downsides I have to this game is it can get frustratingly difficult if you're trying to go all the way like I did. The last thing I'm on is the last thing in the game, pretty much, for the main game, where it's beat the entire game in reverse. Oh, and by the way, you have one heart. So
yeah, you can't make any mistakes. Yeah.
Like, that's my biggest issues with it, but yeah, I mean, like
Freddy Merchantry. Come on.
Yeah, Freddie Merchantry. You've got some of the best music in video games history.
Yeah, Danny Baranowski.
Yeah, and it came up recently in We Rogue Like It. I'm sure you'll get to that when you get to it. There isn't a single game that exists that is like this game.
Nope.
You can't say this is like anything else until Cadence of Hyrule came out, which is by the same devs.
It's a game so good that Nintendo said, hey, do you want to make a Zelda game like this? Which has never happened, and Nintendo reached out to them.
Touched one of the holy three trinities that they have.
And they're like, hey, tiny indie studio, would you like to make a Zelda game? It's like, what?
Like, Caden, it's hard to put into words how good Crypt is. It might not be your thing. You might not like roguelikes. You might not like rhythm-based games. You might not like a whole bunch of other stuff. That's fine. Then don't play it. It's a game changer for me. Like, it genuinely changed how I feel about roguelikes.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. Nimb, take me away from this Crypt.
God of War.
Are we talking 2018?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you do when you have killed an entire pantheon and you're out of anger?
Right.
You move on to the next pantheon.
Right. Yep, you just switch to the next one. Yep.
This was just really cool. I loved how they changed it where, one, you're starting out with an axe. That's basically Thor's hammer, which is fitting considering that you will eventually find Thor.
Right.
So, but yeah, it really is the game starting out with, okay, he's already gone through and he's killed every person who he could justifiably and unjustifiably kill. What is he going to do now?
Yeah.
And then you find him where he's burying his wife and he has a kid.
Yeah.
And you don't know where you are or what's happening.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just a really good story. I am really looking forward to them making a second one.
Yep.
And I love the fact that you basically just get an old man, grumpy Kratos.
Yeah. It's really good.
Oh, yeah. It's Logan in video game form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he's accomplished everything that he wanted to accomplish too. He attempted to start a new life and finding out that everything that he's done in the past is coming back to haunt him. And even just once you get further into the game, there are certain things from the past that come back. Yeah. And it is kind of haunting how they go about doing some of that presentation. Really good. Yes.
Yeah. And I agree 100% as someone who has zero connection with the original God of War games.
Right.
That moment still stood out a lot to me. So how much it must have stood out to people who love the first series.
Yeah, where the music comes up and you're like, oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also, good job, Christopher Judge as Kratos, by the way.
He's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. My next game is Enter the Gungeon, a game we have not yet reached on We Rogue Like It, but it very much a game that feels like it wanted to take the formula from Binding of Isaac and kind of perfect it in their own way and kind of make their own thing, where you have full 360-degree shooting, but it's kind of
also Nuclear Throne as well, isn't it? Like, it feels like it's kind of a hybrid between Nuclear Throne and Isaac.
Yeah, it kind of takes a lot of from the tentpole, like, most famous roguelike releases. It kind of takes all of those and really distills them into something really great. Doing the dodge roll to get through bullets feels really great. The story they presented is really interesting, where you're creating a gun to kill your past. All of the enemies and all the bosses are really great. They're all like bullets or guns, and they all have great puns, and another really tiny team that just stuck with the game and made it so much better. And I haven't spent a ton of time with this game, which means I only put about 300 hours into it, which for most of our roguelikes is like pretty low. But man, there's just one of those games, again, like Isaac, they had this vision of what they wanted this to be. They nailed the gameplay early, and then they just kind of flesh the whole thing out, and it just feels so good. Enter the Gungeon is really, really great, even for people that don't like roguelikes.
Before you move on,
Yeah,
because I know you're about to, you need to tell you what your favorite thing about the game is.
oh, there's so many. Are you talking about the Ammonomicon, which is the in-game codex?
I'm specifically talking about the puns. Yes.
Yes, the puns, especially Advanced Gungeons and Dragons is the one of the last pieces of DLC. Yeah, just like one of the punniest games where you open up some like the codex entry for an enemy. It's like, yeah, of course that's what that one's called. Of course, what else would it be? That's really great. Yeah, Enter the Gungeon is incredible. Moon, over to you.
Okay. So while we're talking about guns,
Yes.
I have to talk about the most innovative shooter I've ever played.
It's the most innovative shooter I've played in years.
Yes. For those of you who don't know,
Curse them.
I'm talking about Super Hot.
Super hot.
It's genuinely a fantastic game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fly through this one a little bit here because, to be honest, we did a game club on it.
Yeah.
So, which was, I think that was this year? Or was that last year?
Last year, I think.
Well, either way, we did a game club
Yeah.
on it. There is a very deep breakdown of exactly what we think of it,
And where that game goes.
Yeah. Have you played it before, Nimp?
No.
Well, let me tell you, it's the most innovative shooter I've ever played in years.
I want to do it in VR, which
Tell
is
a
why
friend.
I haven't done
Oh,
it yet.
yeah. It's supposed to be really good in VR.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and the fact that they did that too. Like, full
Yep.
credit to them for that as well, and changing the way it plays because you're in VR.
Yeah. Really
Super
great.
Hot's incredible. If you haven't played it, just go play it.
It's super short.
Take it to the next one, Nimp.
Marvel Spider-Man 2018.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had a game really capture how it feels to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And by capture, I mean climbing to the tallest building and jumping off and waiting at the very last moment to web sling out of it.
Yep.
Feels really good.
That game is just really solid from front to back. Way better than it should be.
I haven't played any of the DLC for it, and I have heard that those can be kind of weak. I think there was three or four.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I played like the first one. I was like, I platinumed it, so sort of like, I think I might be done with this game.
Yeah, one of the few games I platinumed.
Yeah.
The best part is the suits that you can get in the game.
Yep.
Up to and including the comic book suit that you can get that is completely different from the realistic backgrounds that you are playing in.
It's really great.
That suit is what makes me excited about the Into the Spider-Verse suit for the Miles Morales one.
Yes.
Yep.
And they just put a lot of detail work into this game. Not as much as some people want, because a lot of crying about puddles that don't exist anymore.
The puddles!
But I mean, it had a good story.
Yep.
It had great gameplay, and it looked freaking awesome. And it was a big open world game. Yeah.
Incredible set pieces as well. Like, the helicopter chase is fantastic.
Oh,
There's so much good stuff in there.
Yeah.
So that's mine for now.
My next one is Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Pass that off.
It's one of those things where it's like, do you even try to do this? Do you try to do a remake thing for the most popular JRPG of all time?
We all assumed they would never do it. Why
would you bother? Like, why would you bother even attempting? Yeah, like, why would you risk the pure hatred of this? And I think they did the best thing, which is they kind of started back over. And they asked the question in the game itself, how far can a remake go separating itself from the source material? And the answer is fascinating. The questions, the way they pose the question is really interesting. And they just made a really fun Final Fantasy VII game. And yeah, it's a remake. Yeah, it's kind of a retelling, and it's kind of a new thing. And it's really good. And as someone who has a lot of complicated feelings about Final Fantasy VII.
Not as good as 8.
Well, that much is obvious. It's a really good game, and it's just I want to talk so much about it, but so much about it is here's how it deviates from the original, and those are spoilers, and I don't want to spoil it.
They did a really good job of striking a balance of, hey, this is information for the new people who have never played the original,
right,
to leave them on a cliffhanger. And then for people like me in Boston, Moon, did you ever play 7? All the way through? Okay. So like the three of us who have played the original Source, they even left us on a cliffhanger of, oh, he thought it was going to go this way. Well, guess what?
Haha!
Strap in, guys.
Yeah. This game is... I don't want to talk too much about it because, like Final Fantasy VII, it's been talked to death, but it is genuinely really fantastic. Moon, over to you.
Okie doke. You mentioned number 7.
Yes.
7. It's number 7. I hear 7s. Which immediately makes me think of patreon.com/E1M1, the ones and numbers, where if you can get us to over $250 a month,
that's
then
right.
Mr. Boston over here has to play one of the games of the generation, which is Resident Evil 7.
The only reason you put that game on your list.
Well, talk about, like we talked at the beginning about Assassin's Creed reinventing itself. Talk about a complete reinvention of a series that people were like, oh, great, another terrible Resident Evil game. Woohoo!
I mean, 4 was incredible. 5 was okay.
Yep.
Questionable decision making along the way in some of that stuff. 6 was,
it was a mess.
I can't describe how bad 6 is, and I got a full gamer score in that game, for the record.
Look up certain ways to look at the 6 in Resident Evil 6, and it will blow your mind, and you will never unsee it.
That's right.
Are we talking about the giraffe?
Yes.
Well, the giraffe in this room, though, it's number 7. Like, it's how... Maybe it's a machine for pigs, maybe it's all of the Amnesia Dark Descent, which do not make my list because I have not played them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the influence of them over the past couple of years, but taking Resident Evil 7, number 1, rebuilding your engine from scratch.
Yeah.
And making it probably one of the most powerful engines out there right now, I would say.
Among them, at the very least.
Yeah.
And making Resident Evil 7 first person, get down, gritty, barely any ammo, invincible enemies chasing you, which is usually a chore, but in this game it's genuinely terrifying.
Yeah.
It's a complete divergence from the way the series is going, and it's one of my favorites. Like, I was amazed with how well this thing feels to play and plays.
Yeah.
And it tells a fantastic kind of reboot story, which still loops it into the original series at the same time. So,
right.
Spoiler alert, there's a Redfield at the end of that game.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's genuinely one of the best horror games I've ever played. And I really want to torture Boston.
Yeah.
So, please help.
Just gotta sign up for Patreon.
Take it away, Nim.
My next game is Monster Hunter World.
I can't believe you took it from
Look, I will start skipping around because I realized that I didn't completely randomize the list anyway, or alphabetize it anyway. Somehow one didn't move. But anyway, Monster Hunter World. I have played all the Monster Hunter games before this. I am not an avid fan. I really enjoyed what they were trying to do with the originals.
Mm-hmm.
This game takes that and adds...
We are dabblers. Me
Yes.
and you are dabblers.
Right.
Boston is a curious observer, and we are dabblers.
Right.
I have played with my PSP in a public library with some rando.
Right.
In, what was it? I can't remember the Try one. I know it was...
Try was the PSP version, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't remember what came after Try, but anyway.
Monster Hunter Freedom Unite was the other one too. Which, that was the version I played by using my PS3 to hook up to someone I was talking to on Xbox, which was Soulman, to play the PSP version with him.
Right.
Monster Hunter World fixes the issues that Moon and I were just describing about being able to play with other people.
Right.
So, Capcom did a really good thing. One, by making the multiplayer a lot easier to do. Two, they got rid of a lot of the older
Archaic
systems. Yeah,
Yeah.
When the series first started, they were cool, they were interesting, they added stuff to the game. Now they would be considered a real pain to have to deal with. A lot of people complain about having to sharpen weapons in this game, and that was literally the easiest thing to do.
Yeah,
the
You
originals.
just have to go and find the whetstones.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's just fun being able to jump in, take on monsters with other people, and then improve your armor. And that's all this is. You're only killing these monsters to improve. Yeah, is to improve your weapons and armor.
Yeah.
There's some story. Nobody pays attention to it.
Yep.
The other best thing that this game gave us were the cats.
Palicos.
Palicos are awesome, but more specifically, the chef.
Yes. Oh, God.
Meowskilla Chef.
Yes. Oh, so good.
Right. It's so good. And worth mentioning, too, Capcom's best-selling game, full stop.
Of all time. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible.
So,
like, the world finally understands.
Yeah.
And it only took Palicos.
That's right. My next game is Fortnite. I feel like this is probably in the list of most important games of the generation anyway, because it took Battle Royale, the book, begat PUBG, begat Fortnite. Fortnite being free sort of had this whole thing take off like wildfire. Sadly, at the cost of Save the World, which is an interesting mode that got left to die because money, which sure I get. But I probably literally don't have to say anything about this because it is Fortnite. You have seen it if you're a human that is conscious over the last 5 years, and it's a genuinely really great game that I cannot believe I enjoy playing. That water guy, as my kid calls him, I found him, and that's Nimp left. Okay.
Yep.
But Fortnite is really fantastic, and it's one of the few games where you can say I literally don't have to say anything about this game because it's just Fortnite.
Everybody knows what Fortnite is.
Right.
Everybody.
Moon, what's your next game?
Okay. My next game is going to have to be Assassin's Creed Origins. Because I know we talked about Odyssey earlier today. Or earlier in this episode. But Origins was, to me, the revitalization of that series as a whole. And Cassandra is the better of the two protagonists, I think.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
But I think Origins tells a better story. I think Origins is a better experience in general.
Yep.
Like, it all in all, it tallies itself up pretty nicely. We made a joke about this the other week. I can't remember if it was pre-show or not, or one of the other episodes, but minus the eagle skull into the sand moment at the very end of that game, which is one of the worst. Like, the story that thing tells is incredible, and like when you're dealing with the crocodile god as well,
right?
Like, it's hard to put into words how all of a sudden I felt something again for the Assassin's Creed protagonists.
Yeah.
And it was just so good to dive in and see this world and see Egypt being one of the most famous, countries on the planet. And like being able to ride around everywhere and the pyramids and everything else. Bayek is incredible. I feel sad that Cassandra kind of stole his thunder a little bit.
Yeah.
Genuinely such a great game.
Yeah. I just got a text from Nymph that he lost power. So that's good. is gonna make this episode fun to edit. Ha.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. My next game, Forza Horizon 3 and 4. I couldn't choose one.
Pick one.
Yeah, because they're both kind of good at different things. But I love the Forza series, and I think that Forza Horizon, to me, is so much more fun that I like the Horizon series way better. I think I love the open world. I love the festival idea. I love just having all these cars and just kind of like bombing through the countryside and doing all the challenges in the world. Like, these two games are really, really, really great, and I'm. It's one of those few games where it's like you guys are going to announce the fifth one now. A new console's out, right? Like it's coming soon, right?
It's
like,
always a regular Forza for it. So
right, like after that one, like you guys are working on it already, right? Like it just it's got to come soon. But yeah,
4 was the reason I got an X. And
right.
4 was the reason my wife got a new television and an X.
Right. It's one of the first games I'll be playing on my Series X, just to say, like, here's how it looks on PC, here's how it looks on my original Xbox. Now I have 4K, now I have HDR, now I have 60 frames, that whole thing. So, both of those games are really great.
It might run at 120 on the X.
Yeah, I don't know if my TV does 120. I have to check that out. I don't think it does. But yeah, genuinely really great games. Let's go back to you then for the next one.
I was going to do that one, but I'm going to save that because I probably need him for that one because he's got a lot of time in that. Let's talk about Dead Cells.
Okay. We can talk about a lot of roguelikes while Nimp isn't here. All right.
Yeah, dipping into the roguelike category a little bit again here. Very rarely has a game done what Dead Cells has done, which is to say, hey, we're coming out in early access, and yes, we may seem like we're pretty much ready to go immediately into release, but we've got some changes we'd like to make.
Yeah, we got more stuff to go in.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it comes out of early access, and it's probably one of the most polished games I've ever played.
Dimebag in chat says, I'm playing this as we speak.
Yep.
Yep.
It's so good. Like, it feels great to play. The story is kind of whatever, and that's its major flaw, in my opinion, is the fact that the story is very limited.
Yeah.
But the gameplay, we talked about it with Celeste, Super Meat Boy, Hades, these are games which have near perfect feeling to the way you play.
Right.
And I feel like Dead Cells 1,000% takes that same category of, this is just hella fun to play. You don't even have to do well. It's just hella fun to control, to do the dodge roll, the kicks, the punches, everything else. That you find your weapon of choice that you love, and then it's like, oh, it shows up in a run, and it's a colorless one, so it's like the highest level, and it ranks up with you, and all of a sudden you're just in the best mood ever. It's one of those games that, again, took over the roguelike world specifically. And we were all talking about it at the same time. Everybody just like, Dead Cells, you have to get it. Yeah. And then they patched it and made it easier, which was a good thing.
Right. It's way more fair now.
Yes. It used to feel a little bit unfair. And then when we did, was that for We Roguelike It? We did it?
Yeah, we did.
Yes, it was. And when I went back to it, it was just like, oh no, now it feels a bit better balanced.
Now I can finish the game. All right.
Yes, which I did at last, after years of trying.
It's so good.
But yes, Dead Cells is great. Go try Dead Cells.
Yeah. My next game, Hollow Knight. We've now reached the H category. This is kind of the inverse of Axiom Verge, where Axiom Verge kind of took the genre and kind of flipped it around a little bit. Hollow Knight is very much like, how about we took a fairly traditional Metroidvania, we made it huge, and we made the combat matter. And then
let's just not say huge. Let's say, what if we made it huge and then multiplied that by 4?
it's gargantuan. Like it's so big, and I think they did the interesting thing of taking an important lesson from Dark Souls or the Soulsborne series, and leaving these little clues and these little nuggets of the story behind the scenes, and letting you kind of fill in the gaps if you're interested, and if you're not, that's fine. You can just go play a really great Metroidvania. Really great looking, super tight controls, brutally punishing at the beginning, but it's one of those that
those 5 beetles can go straight to hell.
God, yeah, just one of the hardest boss fights in gaming history. But like as you get better and as you get more upgrades, the game gets easier and easier and easier. And I will agree with people. I think because of the game's hugeness, if you get stuck, just look up a map. There's nothing wrong with it. The game is hard enough without you losing progress. Just look up a map to find where you can find the humming map dude. Just go find him. Go scoop up the map. That's not the game's difficulty point. You shouldn't punish yourself with that. But this is one of my favorite games of all time, and one of my favorite Metroidvanias. It does everything right. It plays so great. It is a genuine challenge in some of the best ways, and it's one of those games that I will continue to tell people, please go buy it. It's $5. It's on Game Pass. It's free on PS4 next month. Like, just please go play it. It's genuinely really great.
Yeah. All is great.
Back on over to you.
Okie doke. Titanfall 2.
Yep, I'll cross that off my list here. The most innovative shooter. Wait.
We weren't expecting a lot from Titanfall 2. Like, nobody was.
Titanfall 1 did not set the world on fire.
No, it was a solid game with some really great mechanics.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some issues with that. Specifically, the fact that its whole thing was multiplayer. Like, even the single player was multiplayer. It was kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But they had a good foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took that foundation and they didn't only make an incredible single player campaign. They made an incredible multiplayer campaign and, a battle royale later down the line with that. But the way they tell the story in Titanfall 2 is incredible.
Welcome back, Nip.
Thank you.
Have a little programming behind the scenes note. Have you started recording again?
Yes, I have. I
Fantastic.
have times, and I have a starting cue for you in there.
You're the best.
Oh.
Yep. Now, this is where this all gets snip, straight out the episode.
Cut.
But the relationship with BT in Titanfall, it tells a story that it had no right to be as good as it is. Mm-hmm. No right to be that good.
Yep.
The bosses, the stories,
the time travel level.
The time travel level is probably one of my favorite levels in video games. The factory level, where you're climbing and doing the wall runnings around the houses as they're being constructed around you.
That's probably my favorite level in the game. I know people love the time travel level, but that one to me, where you're like hopping between manufacturing platforms that are building houses and buildings, I think that area is so cool.
That area was so massive too, where sometimes I couldn't tell where I needed to go until people started shooting at me, and it's like, oh, I guess that direction.
Right. Go over there. Yeah.
Yeah. Titanfall 2 is incredible, and it goes on sale all the time now, and it's usually on sale for like $5.
Yeah.
So go give it a shot. It's like maybe
so
6 to 8 hours, and it's an incredible game.
Yeah. So good.
Yes. Nimp, over to you. We will give you a warning if you haven't talked about something that we've already mentioned.
Right.
I was going to say, how many games am I behind now?
Like two or three.
Oh, okay.
It's not that many.
My next game is No Man's Sky.
There you go. I crossed that off my list here.
Okay.
Boop.
for all of these stupid, dumb issues and glitches that I've had with this game.
Unofficial QA team over here.
Yeah. My son and I both still really enjoy this game. And it's something that I look forward to playing more of off and on. I've kind of taken the route of, I'll play it for like a week straight and then give it a couple weeks off and then come back to it. And it's another one of those games where the developer is still just supporting it. I'm pretty sure they have one more major free update, and then I think they said that was it. But
it'll be the first game I play on my PS5. Like that. Yeah. That's how much I'm looking forward to playing more of this game.
But it's just a really fun, dumb, do whatever you want, however you want, and you can get away with it.
The most relaxing exploration game out.
Yeah.
As long as you're not on the first planet, yes.
Yeah.
Or a tornado world that's on fire, or falling through a map, or...
Yep.
But even the multiplayer that they added with this game, which, I mean, you could... I think it was like 2 updates in, where you could start just playing with other people.
Yeah.
But with the co-op missions that they've added in, the extra stuff that you can do with other people now, the fact that my son and I can help each other with our base building, the fact that I can help him find things if he needs something, or he can just come into my base and take what he wants because I've given him that privilege.
Right.
Yeah,
no mistake.
It is, but I have things making stuff all the time that I don't know what to do with, so whatever.
Yeah.
He's family. It's fine.
Yeah.
Until he blows something up, then it's not.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really good game.
Yeah. My next one is Life is Strange / Before the Storm plus the Prologue DLC.
Okay. I'm crossing Life is Strange off my list.
Okay. So everybody has talked about Life is Strange forever. I feel like we don't need to cover that really. It is probably the first, if not one of the first, episodic story-based games that came out on a schedule, which at the time was really impressive.
Also, it showed you that it didn't have to be in the Telltale style.
Right. Yeah, they could do their own thing.
Like 7, and they were all basically the same game at that point.
Yep.
But and yeah, it's so good.
Life is Strange by itself is really great, and they announced Before the Storm, and it's like, I don't know if I need a prequel to Life is Strange. And like, you're playing as Chloe, and it's like, I don't know if that's the thing. Before the Storm is, I think, 3 episodes, so it's shorter than the original. It is also really good, because it deals with a lot of the trauma that Chloe is dealing with in Life is Strange. It sort of sets up the villain of Life is Strange in a really interesting way. So play the original first before you play the prologue. And then the prologue DLC that comes out with it does such a heartbreaking job of tying the end of Before the Storm into the beginning of Life is Strange in a way that is just really super well done and just leaving me sitting there sobbing. It's like, why? Please. We have talked about Life is Strange a lot. You should really go play it. It's some of the gameplay stuff might not be super have aged well at this point, but it's just such a cool time travel power thing that it tells such a cool story with a really meaningful choice at the end, which is genuinely not the thing that happens, where it pops up that choice and you're like, oh no, I have to choose. Oh god, okay.
Yep.
Life is Strange and all the prelude stuff in the DLC is genuinely really good. Highly recommended. Yeah, what's that?
Screw them whales.
That's right. Screw them whales. Yeah. Moon, over to you.
Here's one which is probably not on your list, Boston, but it certainly should be. Orwell, Keeping an Eye on You.
I don't have Orwell on my list.
So yeah, this is another game we did for Game Club.
Yep.
One I would have never played without Game Club.
I think Monkey Senior suggested it, like, "Hey, this game is really cool. I just found it. You should go try it." And it's like, "Oh no, this game is incredible."
Mm-hmm. I have never felt like a game has made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and like dirty.
Yeah, until playing that game.
Yeah.
It's creepily accurate.
Yeah, like digging through people's emails and their computer and their phone to figure out if they're an enemy of the state because somebody is bombing stuff. Another actually very successful episodic game, which now the episodic nature doesn't really matter, but it's maybe like 4 episodes, 5 episodes as an hour per. It's a very quick moving game, but yeah, just one of those like unsettlingly potentially accurate things where you're like, I don't like what I'm doing at all.
Hello, CIA. How are you doing?
Right. Welcome to the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a genuinely fantastic game, and it has an interface which I've never really seen before in games.
Yep.
You're literally using a computer screen.
Yep, like it just looks like a dumb terminal that you would have on your desk that is just, here's the computer you got, here's all your tools.
Yep. And it makes me feel uncomfortable on so many different levels. It's a great story, really well told, putting the evidence together. It's like a true crime detective kind of thing as well at the same time. It's genuinely a fantastic experience, and it's not that long, so maybe go give it a shot and see how it makes you feel instead.
I love it so much I'm really pissed I forgot about it. That's how good it is.
I put it on my list and I was like, yeah, Boston's not going to have this and he's going to be annoyed.
Yeah.
So Nim.
My next game is Persona 5.
Yeah.
So from the music to the characters to just the art style of this game.
To the style.
Yes. Everything about this game is really awesome. It's really different from the past Persona games while pretty much having the exact same frame.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. The different ways and the different dungeons that you have and the different ways you can go about doing them, and depending on how your social links, S-links, are doing, and the different things you can get out of each of those dungeons because of that. And I haven't played Royal. I hear a lot of people really like some of the new stuff that they added.
Yeah, I haven't gotten around to it, but the changes sound very good.
Yeah, it's just all around a very fun JRPG. Just be ready that the final dungeon is kind of long and kind of sucks.
There's about half of the dungeons in the game are really good, and about half of the dungeons really suck. Persona 5 it's my third favorite Persona game, just because 3 and 4 are so good. But 5 is
it in that order? Is it 3, 4, 5?
No, it's 4, 3, 5. Because 4 is...
I would agree with that. 4 is really, really good.
4 is really good, and 3 is outstanding for like the opposite reasons why 5 is great. Because it's mostly mechanics focused. But God, 5 is really good. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you never got a chance to play 3 or 4, but you've heard they're all great, or the 4 just came out on PC. But yeah, check out 5. 5 is outstanding from front to back. It's really good.
Here's your obligatory talking cat, and guess what? He can also turn into a van that you get to ride inside of.
That's right. It's really good. Yeah. My next game is The Outer Wilds, a game I'm sure that Moon is crossing off on his list right now.
Nope.
Outer Wilds makes me mad because it's the game I've always wanted to make. There's no conflict. There's no enemies to fight. There's no bad guy. There's no nothing. Your currency is knowledge, and you have to go to find that knowledge by just discovering stuff.
And just so everyone's clear, this is not the...
It's not the Outer Worlds.
Wannabe.
Right.
This is
That's
the other one.
not on my
the
list.
indie game.
Yeah, this is the solar system simulator. It's I know this is 100% a me game, and it is focused on running that 12-minute loop, discovering as much as you can, making a discovery, and taking advantage of that discovery on the next 12-minute loop. And that feels good from the beginning of the game all the way up until its heartbreaking ending. And there's some frustrating stuff and there's some weird stuff in there. Like it's definitely not a perfect game, but God,
I landed on that sun station. Like that's very difficult.
Yeah, you did the hardest thing in that game. I like that this game, made by a super tiny team, just like went for it with, we're just gonna make exactly the game we wanted to make, and we don't care if it's marketable or whatever. They just made a hell of a game, and
And they arguably made a fantastic decision to put it on Game Pass.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, one of those great, just go try it. Spend an hour or two with it, see if you like it. If you don't, that's fine. No big deal. All right, over to you, Moon.
Get into the difficult decisions now.
Mm-hmm.
Dead by Daylight. I
There
know
it
it's
is.
not on either of your lists, so it's fine. You
No.
don't have to sigh or pretend.
A game I respect the hell out of.
Yeah. This makes me laugh because I have been on the roller coaster ride with Dead by Daylight, which is to say, my wife started playing it, and I started playing it to play it with her.
Right.
And then I decided I didn't like it. Tell that to me 2 years ago. Say 2 years in the future, you'll play it every week, sure. And I bounced hard. And she continued playing it for like a year. And then she stopped. And then suddenly I started playing it, and it kind of became the default Friday night game. Where, like, me and a couple of community members, we'd all just jump in together and start playing it to the point where now we have, like, build types and strats and...
Team composition.
Yeah, we literally have got that far into the game where we can change our stuff on the fly and have specific loadouts depending on who we are inviting in. We all have babysitter loadouts for when a new person starts playing. I mean, like a game that on the surface felt like it was destined to die because it was released at the same time as the Friday the 13th game.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, look which is the one that's still standing.
Yeah.
And look at the one which all of a sudden has a whole bunch of licensed people in there.
Right. Which is just the coolest thing.
Is in the game for reasons I don't know.
So cool.
Like, it's weird that this game became the de facto, here's how you do asymmetrical multiplayer right.
Mm-hmm.
Especially considering you cannot attack the killer as a survivor. You have no offense. The only thing you could do is defense. That's brave, to say the least. And the fact that they have it so perfectly balanced is just chef's kisses to the whole Dead by Daylight team. Now, please give me cross-play and cross-progression, please. That would be greatly appreciated, so that we can play with PC folks and vice versa.
Right.
Yeah, Dead by Daylight is fantastic. Like, if you haven't heard me talk about it enough, just go listen to any episode of the show over the past 2 years or so, and I'm sure you'll hear. But yeah, Dead by Daylight. Go Nimco.
All right, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
I
am not the biggest Souls-like player.
That's the dude who just finished Bloodborne.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have played all of them now since I've beaten Bloodborne.
But you're the biggest Souls... You're the biggest Soulsborne fan, not Souls-like fan. You're playing the originals.
But this one really grabbed me because it is Star Wars. And I mean, look at the shirt I'm wearing right now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. It does a really cool thing with the story where it's putting you in between the prequels and the original trilogy.
Yep.
And it's kind of throwing you with a no-name character who doesn't really have anything to do with the movies, which is great.
Yep.
And you're just getting
Dash Rendar.
Yeah, and you're just getting brief glimpses of stuff that's happening. That actually, wait, I can't. Is it in between the prequels and the original, or is it the original and the new stuff that came out?
Yeah, well, considering the spoiler at the end, I'm guessing between prequels and the originals.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I can't really remember what point he is at.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Either way, it's a really good story. It has a very awesome cameo that you would expect from the franchise.
And which they stupidly spoiled, by the way. In
the commercials.
Yeah. But that particular encounter really hammers home the godlike quality of this thing that you're up against.
Yeah.
So, really fun game. If it's too hard for you, which mostly is because controls sometimes, or because the game just, hey, you're sliding down. God, I hate those slides. But anyway, you're sliding down something and all of a sudden you just fall because even though you had 2 feet of slide left, you just fell through the map. That's a lot of the things that you die. It does have a story mode, which is still fairly difficult, but a lot easier than all the other modes that I was on.
Right.
So have at it. It's a fun game.
My next game is Oxenfree. This is a very...
I literally didn't write this down because I knew you would have this covered.
Yeah, I've talked about this for years, but I love that they took the sort of point-and-click adventure genre and kind of took it the next step, where they have a more natural... It's like the biggest frustration point for a lot of people, and I get it. They have a more natural conversation flow, where you're just sort of shooting the poops with your friends, you're interrupting each other, you're very quickly talking to someone because you're having a conversation. I liked that aspect of it. I liked that they were trying to tell this kind of cool, supernatural, spooky thing. I love the way that the entity or whatever talks to you through like snippets of like news footage. I really loved
it. Mason.
That's right. Like it just is Leith possible. Like that's some of the best stuff in that game. Like I really like it. I think it's such a solid game. Incredible soundtrack. I really like the art style. And I really like
voice acting is on point as well.
Yeah, voice acting is really great. And I really like that this game has a good number of choices in it that genuinely matter. And there's a lot of very divergent ways the storyline can go. It's not, the typical diamond that we talk about on the show a lot, where you're kind of fanning your decisions out, but the beginning and the end are the same. But yeah, Oxenfree is super solid, and that's another game that's on sale for like $3 all the time.
Was that a deliberate joke?
Which was just what?
Because if you get the bad ending in Oxenfree, the beginning and the ending are the same.
Gotcha. You got it. Oxenfree is so good. Yeah. Over to you, man.
Okay. It's not, generally speaking, this one isn't on my refined list. I'm putting it on it because I feel like it deserves a mention, and I don't think, no offense you guys are going to talk about it. Let's talk about the game that saved the studio. Hitman.
Yeah. I just regret that I haven't played those games because I think I'd really dig them.
Yes, you would. You would love the whole, for lack of a better way to put this, the visual novel solving of the path.
Yeah, like the sneaking and creeping and having the perfect crime.
Yeah, the optimization method you have to go through to get you the perfect run how you want to do it. Like, you would probably love that aspect of it.
Yep.
I have played a lot of the first one. I haven't played the sequel, so that's why the sequel's not here. The game that spawned 1,000 memes. I mean,
the Sheik.
It's the Sheik. It's Helmut Kruger. It's the flying briefcase.
It's playing the drums.
Yeah.
What's the thing about the toilet?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Jeez.
Like it's probably the best Hitman game. I loved Absolution. I understand if you're a Hitman purist and you hated Absolution. I get it. But I loved Absolution. I think Absolution was an incredible game. This is back to Hitman's pureness of the previous games.
Yeah.
And then it did everything right. It did the crowd scenes right. It did the mansions correct. The plotting through the levels, the disguises. It did all of that right, and it was episodic again. And it quite literally saved IO Studios.
Yep. Thank goodness.
Yeah, like the majesty that they have done with this game is fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
it's a great game. I love it. I need to play more of it still, but I do think it deserves to be on this list just for the influence it's had on this generation.
100%. Yep.
Nymph, take it away.
All right, my next game is Tales of Zestria.
Yeah.
So many Tales games, I get confused every 2 seconds. You say Tales of, and then I tune out.
Moon, here's the guide. Every other one is really good. The other ones you don't need to play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This particular one goes back and forth depending on who you're talking to and whether this one needs to be played or not. I enjoyed this one. I also really enjoyed Berseria, which is a direct sequel to this one, which I feel has a better story to it. But again, depending on who you're talking to, depends on who likes what.
I just looked up Tales of Zestiria. I like this one a lot. This is probably one of my favorite Tales games.
So, the characters are cool. Just the way they changed the system where you have spirits now and you're linked, and just it was just a fun, cool, blue sky-ish game.
Yeah.
Where there just wasn't really anything heavy happening, and you didn't need it to.
Nope. Just having a good adventure.
Yeah, and it had a really good ending.
Yes, it did.
So,
yeah.
That's all I'll say about that. It's a fun game. Check it out.
My next game is the game we haven't stopped talking about for about 3 years, Prey 2017.
Yep.
There's a reason why it was our game of the year for that game across the entire show. It's just one of those games that came out of left field. We decided, yeah, sure, we'll play it. Why not? Like, sure, it's fine. It just caught us by surprise, and it's just so good. It's that sort of like exploration adventure shooter that I like, where like the Deus Ex games, that you're kind of making your own solution through these spaces. Depending on how early you get to stuff, like Moon's tip about like, hey, and look up because there's a lot of good stuff up there. Your build, because you can decide whether or not to take the phantom powers too. How much you're sort of taking advantage of the tools the game gives you, where it's like, wait, what if I carry this turret like 30 minutes out of the area it's supposed to be in? Oh no, it works. Oh, they made it so much easier. I did it. And then on top of it, just put a roguelike mode in there, which is it's mixed success, but it's a cool exploration of what that game is. I will never shut up about Prey. I think everybody should try playing it. It's not as scary as it seems. It's not as first-person shootery as it seems, and it's definitely not as hard as it seems. It's just a really cool thing, and hopefully the next gen of consoles will be able to help with the load times, because a lot of areas have 2 loading bars when you go into them, and that's rough. But Prey 2017 is genuinely really very, very good.
Yep. And Arcane Studios now owned by Microsoft.
That's right. Yeah, and the Deathloop will be coming out at some point, which, God, I'm hoping is really good. But Moon, what's your next game?
Okay, let's
getting into it.
Which ones are you guys not gonna talk about?
Okay.
Let's talk survival. Survival in space, like Prey, or survival underwater, like Subnautica.
Yeah.
I have a mixed relationship with these type of games, these survivalist kind of games.
Me too.
Well, your mixed relationship is you hate them, all of them.
Except for Don't Starve, which I guess should be on my list.
Play Subnautica.
Yeah.
A small, tiny little early access game that suddenly came out, and I thought, I've always been interested in that, and I believe I actually played it while streaming for Extra Life. Was the first time I kicked it up.
Right.
And then the game kind of took over my life for about a month and change.
Yeah.
Like, I'm terrified of underwater. Don't get me wrong, I can swim, I can dive, I'm pretty good. Even in open water, I'm pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about when the lights go out kind of deep.
Right.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And for good reason. Go watch Blue Planet if you want a real-life documentary about how scary deep water can be.
See some aliens down there.
Yeah. And this game 1000% brings all of those fears right to the surface, no pun intended. Because deep water is terrifying, genuinely scary. And this is a game about surviving in it and crafting and building a base. And even though I did build myself a giant submarine, I still don't feel safe. For good reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Subnautica is great. And I'm genuinely excited for the sequel to be on consoles so I can play it, because I don't want to play it on my PC.
Right.
Subnautica is great. Go play it.
Yeah.
Yep. Take me.
Take you where?
Underwater.
No!
All right, my next game is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because this game, one, is open world now, and even though they went with the whole trope again of you see that mountain, you can go to that mountain. Everyone's like, okay, yeah, we've seen this a billion times in Skyrim. It's not so much see the mountain, go to the mountain, as that there's actually stuff in between seeing the mountain and going to the mountain that you can find. And most of it is worth your time doing. You people who are getting the 900 Korok seeds or whatever amount they are, you are just a crazy bunch.
That's nuts.
Whatever. Yeah, if you're enjoying the game, you're enjoying the game.
Dude, I want to play golf by freezing that giant rock and smashing it over the hill to get that.
That was actually the next thing I was going to bring up, is that the physics in this game are way more complicated than anybody had originally anticipated. With, being able to freeze stuff, the stasis, just with you need to get electricity to go from this one spot to another. Well, there's an actual puzzle for you to do that. Or you can just drop all these metal swords in a row that are touching each other, and the electricity will run across it. Or like the ball dropping thing, where it's like, oh, you got this little maze, and if you played it on the Wii U and you had the tablet, you would have to hold it and by the gyros try to move the ball to get it to where it goes. Or you just completely flip it upside down, and then just wing it and flick it at the last minute to get it to where you need it to go.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of crazy things that people even now are still messing with the physics in this game, just seeing what they can do with it. People have made flying boats in this game.
I was gonna say, this after Hitman, this is also probably the biggest meme generator for this year. Because it's just like, here's a platform with 6 Octorok balloons on it, and now I'm just gonna freeze it, jump on it, hit it a couple of times, and loops, I'm in space.
It's a really fun game.
Yeah.
And the story's not too bad. I mean, it's a Legend of Zelda story, but
it's pretty solid.
It continues that story, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yes.
Yeah. It has one major downside, which is Boston's biggest complaint for it.
Breakable weapons.
Durability.
Yeah. It's a bummer. It's not. It doesn't destroy the game. It's not like you shouldn't play it, but it's just like, broke my weapon again. All right.
It's one of those things that you don't want to see it and you hate it, but you get so many weapons anyway from killing things that it's really not an issue. It's just stupid that it's a thing in the game.
Yeah, 100%.
Can I call a quick T here? How many have we got left?
I have 4.
A handful. Less than 10. But you have a couple of them.
I've got 7.
I think we share like all 7 of these, if I'm going to take a guess.
No, we don't.
Okay. We share probably about 5 of them. My next game is one of my favorite puzzle games of all time, Return of the Obra Dinn. Moon, I know that's on your list as well.
1000%.
This is... God, everything about this is so good. It's just this... I love non-linear storytelling, and I love figuring out a puzzle, and I love a closed room whodunit, and this is all of those, and figuring out this puzzle, which is everybody who was on the Oberdin died before they came back, solve the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And you have like your face up to the Switch screen, but you'd be like, "Wow, is it? Is the number on there? Do I know that guy's bag? Who shot this guy? Four people shot at him," and it's just like,
is this sword important? Is this hat important?
Right.
Is this tattoo important?
Right. Have I seen this vest before? And it's like, oh, they talked about this guy's name. All right, I think I know who this guy is in the. All right, now that links to this other guy because he said that's his brother. And it's just, it's so impressive because there's no threat. There's no. You can't really lose the game unless you do the one achievement where you say the captain did it. But there's no jump scares. There's no nothing. It's this incredibly well told, like, radio play where there's this. Everybody has died. You have to just figure out the problem, and the game. A lot of times, the complaint about these games is, well, I felt really stupid until I felt really smart. This game never really makes you feel stupid. You just haven't put all the pieces together yet. And the game's not like, oh, I can't believe you haven't figured this out yet. Oh, shucks, dummy. It's just like, no, just go look at this other corpse. Bring out your pocket watch. Let's go to the past. Let's figure it out. And it's
like, to me, Oberdin feels like those choose your own adventure books from when you were a kid.
Yes.
Except with no death.
Right.
Like, it's like here's a puzzle, solve it with lateral thinking, and figure out what the next step is. Like, that's how it feels without those punishing reasons to hold your finger in the previous page you were reading, kind of thing.
Well, and interestingly, you, Musum, and I played it for Game Club this year, and we all had different ways of figuring out each of the like big puzzles. It was like, oh, I did the thing over here, and oh, I did this thing in this chapter, and I was like, oh, I noticed this guy in the background of this other one. It's like, that would have figured that out way earlier if I had seen that. Oh, that's cool. So I just...
And you text me as well in the middle of one night. I was like, oh yeah, look at the one before that. The dude with the knife is the one you want to be looking for.
Right, and I'm like, I didn't even see the knife in his hand.
And got like 7 more because you got that one.
And the music that it plays when you solve a puzzle, just the do 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 do. It just, everything about it is super, super great. And I just, it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, the guy that made Papers, Please is gonna make another game. It's probably not as good, and it's like, whoops, nope, it's better.
Turns out it's better.
Yeah, like, oh no. Go play Return of the Oberdin. It's incredible. It's so good. Moon, over to you.
One of the most underrated platformers of this generation. Unravel.
Yeah.
Unravel is a very basic platformer. It's a very basic platformer with some interesting puzzles here and there thrown in. But number one, the game is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, you being a little yarn person running through the real world is really cute and horrific at the same time. I hate moles thanks to this game.
Yeah, jeez.
But the way it tells its story with the memories and the flashbacks and the yarn collecting these memories and then putting them in the photos in the house genuinely had me in tears towards the end. Like, genuinely a very heartwarming way of telling the story. And not super duper difficult, like tough in places, but not super duper difficult to the point where it was a struggle to get through. It just had that good feelings running throughout, even when it was telling a dark part of the story, when like plants got closed down or people got arrested and things like this. It still maintains that blue sky kind of game attitude. And
that's a good pick. I totally forgot about it.
And like, I don't think enough people played it. Well, enough people did because it got Unravel 2. Right. But I don't think enough people paid attention to it.
Yeah, it's very good. And also very short, like a lot of these other games, just a couple hours.
It's like 4 or 5, I think, if you power through.
Yeah, it's not very long.
Not that bad.
Yeah.
Nimp, take it away.
Next game is Bloodborne, which is the one that got out of order somehow.
Right.
I both love and hate this game.
A
hate...
true Soulsborne fan.
You played Bloodborne.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I hate that it made me work for it. I love that I've beaten it and I'm done with it.
Right.
And most of that's partially my fault too, because you can do, or you're supposed to be doing parries. And I don't do parries. As soon as I got Ludwig's Holy Sword, I did nothing but two-hand that thing through every boss.
Start
so it was
slicing.
either dodge or take the hit.
Right.
One or the other. And I got really good at dodging. I got really good at countering the bosses. I got really good at learning their motions and how they were doing things. And then I beat the game.
Right. Right.
So you did the Vinny Caravella rock armor way through the game.
Right.
Yeah. And
where he's just like, no, I'm just going to go pure defense, and I'm going to take your hits, and you're going to take mine, and we'll see who's standing at the end of this fight.
Right.
Well, and even that, mine was mostly just pure agility, because you can't take very many hits in this game, no matter how high you get your HP up. But you can dodge as long as you've got stamina.
Right.
But I mean, like, this series of games always ebbs and flows. Even Bloodborne took me like almost 6 months to finally get through, and it was a slow task. And then for some reason, it just clicked with me, and then I beat like 6 bosses in a row and beat the game.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's fun to check out. Don't stress over it. It's only as hard as you make it.
Right.
That kind of BS.
Right. It's all in the mind.
Use Ludwig's Holy Sword. It is the gunship of swords.
Right. My next game is, I feel like this is another one that I kind of don't need to introduce at all, and it's Stardew Valley.
Let me just get my highlights done here.
Yeah, it's that game I kept looking at from afar, where it's like, I know I would love it, but maybe I'd love it too much.
Didn't we game club this?
We did game club it, and that's like where I finally tore the Band-Aid off.
We forced you to finally sit down and play it. It was like,
right.
No, we're going to do a game club on it, and you're going to play it.
And I finally sat down and played it, and it's like, oh no, it's even better than I thought it was going to be. Oh no. It's just, it's one dude. Here's another one. One dude made a game that is just, he obviously loves the Harvest Moon, the sort of like the classic Harvest Moon games. He just made one of his own, because they weren't really making them anymore at the time, and he just made an incredible one. It's a modern one of those, and it's just, there's really nothing wrong with it. Yeah, the combat sort of stinks, but like it doesn't really matter. But like, it is just fun. It's one of those games where you have your routine every day, and you get to bypass some of that by getting your upgrades, and tools never break, which is really great. But it is just so much fun taking care of your farm and being successful. And falling in love, and like getting to learn everybody in the town and being friends with them.
Friends,
and it's just
having kids.
Yeah, it's just
sprites.
It's so good. I don't know what else to say, because it's just, you know what Stardew Valley is.
Yeah.
It's a fun game.
Yeah. Moon, over to you.
Which one are you guys not going to talk about? You're not going to talk about this one. Although I'm surprised that Boston didn't talk about this one. Gears 4.
Yeah, I had Gears 5 on my list, and it's one of those that like kept popping up and down, where it's like, yeah, but I don't, why is it? I don't know.
I think Gears 4 is the better of the two.
Okay.
I absolutely love the fact that it's the first game from a new team, new studio, everything built for a brand new Gears. They did enough different and kept enough the same. Like for a first game from basically a brand new studio built to continue this beloved franchise, I think they did a solid. I mean, how many people are talking about Cliffy B's weird fighting game? And how many people are talking about Gears?
Right.
Like,
and they nailed it. They just they got it right.
Not to mention, it looks gorgeous. It plays fantastically still. Oh, and hey, by the way, look at that ending. More to come soon.
Oh god, like genuinely one of those endings where it's just like there is more to come. Yeah, there's more to come soon. Like one of the few cliffhanger endings where I was real jazzed about it rather than upset about it. Like sort of like Gears 5's ending.
Because they told the story, and I was like, this is where we're going to go next time. Whereas in this game, it's we told you where we're going to go. Now we're going to get halfway there and not finish it.
Whoops.
Yeah. But genuinely adore Gears 4, but I've always been a Gears fan. Minus the achievements. Screw those achievements.
Oh god, they're so hard.
But I think they did a good job with 4. I think they genuinely telling that story, having Kate be one of the main characters as well, was a good transitional process over to 5, which I think 5 has its moments, definitely. But I think 4's story is just a little bit better.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Nim.
All right, my next game is The Witcher 3.
Yep.
I knew someone would have this.
I have that on my list, and I feel like it's another one of those games where it's like, it's The Witcher 3. You've heard of it. You've probably played it.
And
it's great.
If you haven't, you should really check it out. It's a really good game.
I've still not played it yet.
They're coming out with
hours.
They're coming out with a big patch for the next gen consoles, so fix some of that stuff.
I'm pretty sure we have the complete edition too.
Yeah, God, Witcher 3 is just really solid.
Yeah, this is one of those games where you should definitely play the DLC after you've beaten the game. But yeah, it's just so much going on. It's a nice, I guess, ending, because I know they originally said that this was going to be the last Witcher game, but I don't know if that's changed. I mean, we have a Witcher TV show now, so,
right? The
which
TV show is
seems
also
to
very good.
Really love,
it's very
so,
good.
But yeah, for this being potentially the last Witcher game, it was a really good game. I really loved it. You will have that moment of opening your map and having your OCD just kind of shut down your body because there's so much crap to do.
I'm not doing it anymore. Never mind.
Hey, I played the Assassin's Creed based in France, so I know all about that.
Right.
But yeah, it's really fun. Check it out. It only gets better. It's like a fine wine.
Yeah. My next game is the Talos Principle, which I'm assuming, Moon, you have that on your list as well?
I don't. I mean, you mentioned you had this on your list. I'm just shocked because there's 2 games in here. I thought on my list I've got one game I assumed Nimp would have. I've got one game I assumed you would have, and you've gone past those letters, both of you.
There's a couple I've crossed out here on the list just in the interest of time, so we might have.
I have a whole honorable mention section.
Right. All right. Part 2. Let's go. Talos Principle is really interesting because this is another Game Club game from us, which is I'm very happy that so many of these games have turned out to be like, oh yeah, I've heard of that before, or like, oh, I never got around to playing that. Whoops, it's incredible. Talos Principle it starts off as a game that feels like it wants to be Portal. Like it feels like it wants to do something interesting like that. And by the end of it, it's just like, yeah, but what does it mean to have a soul? And it's like, yes, interesting. Yeah, fascinating. And all the while, it's an incredible puzzle game. I sort of don't want to talk too much about it because I feel like every time you get a new ability in the game, it like rewires your brain on how to play the entire game. So even when the game is like, here's a box, and it's like, okay, why are you giving me a box? And then you do like another set of puzzles, and you're like, oh my god, they just changed the game again. And like every time they give you a new ability, just like, oh my god, okay, all right, this is how it plays with the other one, and here's how it plays with, okay, and like, there's some genuinely fiendish puzzles by the end of that. They're not impossible, but it's a lot of like.
You didn't play the additional DLC.
I didn't play Gehenna, no. For that specific reason. But like another one of those really great puzzle games that is never really mean. There's no time limit. There's nothing that's really gonna like permanently kill you or anything. It's just like, all right, here's the level. Go walk around. Go figure it out. Good luck. Yeah,
Great game.
It's outstanding. Moon, over to you.
Resident Evil 2. Because somehow they made and honestly, this is the game that gave me faith in Final Fantasy VII. I haven't played the Final Fantasy VII remake, but the Resident Evil 2 remake was the game that made me think, okay, maybe not all remakes are hot garbage designed to steal money from you.
Right.
Because the Resident Evil 2 remake was incredible.
Yeah. It's outstanding.
It's ridiculous how good that game is. Yo, spoiler alert, they took Resident Evil 2 and they basically made it using the Resident Evil 4 style. Right. However, here's the Resident Evil 7 engine just to make things look truly gorgeous.
God, it looks so good.
Truly gory.
Yeah, but
hey,
a little from column A, a little from column B. It's so good. And if you're a fan of Resident Evil 2, which most people our ages are, it's well worth it to get back into it. And they're selling like a $2 pack where you can just get the rocket launcher from the get-go.
Perfect.
So,
it's so
if
good.
You're a big wuss,
this guy.
Hello, wife, I'm looking at you.
Right.
You can literally have the rocket launcher for when the things start to go down and make your life considerably easier.
Nice.
And they also kept Hunkin' Tofu.
They did.
Yes.
And they look hilarious and great.
Yes. Tofu is like so high quality, it's disturbing. It's really great.
It's like the Monster Hunter food. It's that realistic.
Yeah.
It's so good.
What a great game. Man.
But Resident Evil 2, remakes done correctly, like the 5th Capcom game on this list, and good on them.
Yes, that's a good point.
And some of the best videos from the PC version with X gonna give it to you and Thomas the Train.
All those mods. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, all those mods are so good. But yes, Nymph.
All right, my next game is the Xenoblade Chronicles series. I'm just throwing series in there because they redid the first one for the Switch.
Right.
These are both really good games, the first one and the second one. The first one was a lot more, I guess, mechanically awesome just because of how massive this was for the Wii U. Right. Or no, actually, this was
for the Wii.
Yeah, for the Wii, considering how big the worlds were and all that stuff.
Oh,
and the dynamic changes they had with weather and day shifting and all that. They brought all that into the second game as well. They added in a gacha system, which you don't have to pay anything for. It's just a system that's in the game, which to this day I still do not have Cosmos. And I'm pretty sure Mina's the only one any of us knows who even got her.
The only person in history that managed to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just a nice tying of that story because you got to see, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but you got to see both sides of a story. And then you got to find out that there was actually both sides of the story to figure out. Because until you get to the end of this game, you didn't really realize how connected these actually were.
Oh, sure.
So, really, really great series. Pay attention to your blades and make sure you keep their skills leveled up because you will need them to progress further into the game. Like I found out where I hit a brick wall because I literally didn't have the skills progressed far enough to progress into the story.
Right.
That sucked. But,
oh, man.
Yeah, really fun game.
My next game is another one of those where it's like, hey, here's one of my favorite games of all time. This is The Police.
I knew you'd have this one. I was curious if you were going to go this one or 2.
That was the hard part. I thought about wrapping both of them together, but I think 2 has enough problems that I think the first one succeeds in simplicity, where the second one fails in complexity, which is...
Yeah, but the first one also has so much randomness.
Yeah, the first one definitely has a lot of problems, but I feel like the first one is just... It's one of those times where I'm like, wow, I don't think I've played a game like this before. Like, you are a washed-up police officer that gets put in a bad position by the mob, and you essentially have to run the city while sort of taking advantage of it and try to get to $1 million.
Yep.
And the writing is so solid. John St. John, the voice of Duke Nukem. Yeah.
Let's talk about John St. John for a second here.
Just kills it in this role. It doesn't do as great in the second one, which I think is a little bit too much stumbling in that performance, which I think loses some of the edge in this game. But you're just like you're this dude down on his luck that got into a bad spot, and you just keep making it worse. Like, sort of to yourself and sort of it's being done to you. And I love the management of your officers and going out on calls and trying to figure out which ones are pranks and which ones you just don't have enough manpower to do. And like, the game will punish you at certain points where, like, the very first decision in the game is you need to fire all the women officers. And you're like, no, why would I do that? That's like half my force. What's wrong with you? And if you say no, the game is pretty much like, well, you really pissed the mayor off, so now you don't get any money. Good luck. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, no. Just a really great story that, number one, they made a second one that... Yep. They did a lot of the management stuff. They also added like the turn-based strategy game in there, which was largely good. And they continued the story, if for better or for worse. We talk about it in a lot of detail in the Game Club episode. But this is the Police 1. This is the Police 2. Both of them are outstanding, unique, cool story-based games that tell the story of a dude that's down on his luck and kind of not a great person, and he's also just
as a cop.
Yeah, and like they're both so good, and it's just one of those games that it's one of those ones that I recommend people really check out, because it's just, give it a couple hours. It's usually super cheap, and it's just a cool game and just such a cool experience that I don't know if I played anything else like it. Moon, over to you.
Okay, this is time for one of those why isn't that on my list moments. Because this is one of the games I assumed you two would have. Nier Automata.
Yeah, this was another one that was flipping and flopping off on my list, but...
Yeah.
No. I heard you talk about that game when it came out. This is on your list, mister.
Yeah. I like this game a lot. I'm ashamed.
It is an insane game.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can logically talk about it and have it make sense, because honestly, at some point, I don't think the game makes sense.
Robots.
Yes. Robots.
Yeah.
And machines. And does a machine have souls? And
the moon!
Carnival music that constantly gets stuck in your head.
So good.
I don't know how to talk about this game accurately. So
I don't know if you can.
You should go maybe look a video of it up and see if it's something you want to play.
Yeah.
It almost made Giant Bomb's Game of the year it came out, which is shocking to me.
Yeah, it is. It's another one of those things where it's like, that was... whether you like it or not, it's really an interesting ride and like an interesting experience.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that word sums it up perfectly, actually. It's an experience.
Yeah.
I won't say if it's good or bad.
I was going to say, I think the confusion that you're still feling right now is what the rest of us still felt when we finished the game.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Like, I'm just going to smile, nod, and say maybe go play it. And also maybe take into account that it's a sequel to a game that came out on the 360, which was a sequel to a game that came out before that, I believe.
Yeah.
It's got some weird tie-ins.
It does, yeah.
It's an interesting game. We'll stay there. Let's move on. Nimp.
Yeah.
All right, next game I have is East Lacrimosa of Dana.
Yeah.
Anytime I can put East on a list, I will do it. And this is no exception. This game is really awesome. It was for the PS4 and Vita. But it's still got the map filling from the old Vita versions. You basically are shipwrecked on an island. You have to map this island. you have to also build up your village as you're finding people to rescue who were on your ship that were stranded on this island. You improve your armor, you improve your weapons, you defend your village from waves of ancient monsters that are coming after your village. And then you finally find an ancient civilization, and then the story picks up really fast and hard.
Right.
And I'm ready for 9. Which, none of these, for anyone who's never played an Ys game, none of these, you don't have to play the first one through. There are tons of different ways you can play the series. They're each their own individual story of the same character, except for Origins, which models after technically 3 other characters, 300 years before the first Ys game. So,
right.
But yeah, it's basically just a story of adult Christian and what he did in his life.
Right.
So, I love these games.
Yeah.
The
More
bump
people
system,
need to play them.
Yeah, the bump system is still the funniest, dumbest combat
It's so
I've
dumb. I
ever
love
had
it.
in Ys 1 and 2.
Man. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
man. My next game is Watch Dogs 2. I only have 4 games left. I think we can all agree. I'll speak for Moon here too, as he stepped away for a minute. The first Watch Dogs really had a lot of promise, and boy, did it have a lot of problems. And when they announced Watch Dogs 2, it was sort of like, okay, like sure, like you're going to give it another shot, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you know what lessons you learned from the first one. Boy, they just knocked it out of the park. I think they fixed all the issues from the first one. They gave you a much more interesting crew of people. I think your main character is infinitely more interesting than Aiden from the first one.
Yeah, I think that was his name.
And to be fair, haven't played Watch Dogs Legion yet because I'm waiting for my PS5 to arrive. I just think it's one of those games where it's like, yeah, the first one, you could see what they were trying to do, and man, they killed it on the second one. Just a really great story, really great gameplay. You get a drone and an RC car that basically broke that game wide open, and you didn't need to do anything anymore. It's really great to see them kind of pooch it on the first one. Moon, we're talking about Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs 2. And then to come out of the gate on the second one, just be like, all right, yeah, we fixed all the problems, and here's just a really, really fantastic game that unfortunately nobody played because the first one was not great. And I don't blame people, but it's very good.
Yeah, I still have it installed and have never played it yet. And the next one's coming out soon. So
yeah,
I got halfway through it.
Yeah, it's very good, but it's one of those games where it's like, if you're once bitten, twice shy, I really can't blame you. Because the first one was rough.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better than the first one. That's seriously my problem with it was that I was so pulled away from the first game.
Oh, yeah.
That I didn't want to play the second one or pay for it. And I got the second one for free through Epic Games.
There you go.
So I was like, all right, now I have no excuse not to try it. And it looks and feels better, is all I can really say.
Yep. Moon, over to you.
Oh, I mean...
Should have a couple left.
Yeah, I got 3.
Me
one
too.
I know should be on your lists.
Okay.
One should have been on this list by now, but it hasn't been. Let's talk about Battle Royales again.
Okay.
Again. I will give PUBG all the shout-outs in the world. It is a fine idea and concept. Revolutionized gaming, blah, blah, blah. That's not this game. This game I'm talking about right now is Tetris 99. How do you make Tetris into a Battle Royale game?
The dumbest sentence someone at Nintendo uttered was just like, here's a Tetris Battle Royale. And you're like, the what?
Literally, we laughed when it was announced.
Yeah, the dumbest idea I've heard. A Tetris Battle Royale. You fools. You buffoons.
Oh, by the way, it's free. And by the way, it's incredible.
By the way, it's sick as hell.
Also, by the way, don't play at the same time as Japanese players are playing. Just as a pro tip.
They're so good.
Yeah. My son ran into that a couple times.
Yeah. Right.
He's gotten really good playing against a lot of the Japanese players. But yeah, it's the first time he jumped on and that happened, he just had a wall.
Yeah, just like, oh no.
You're like 10 seconds into this. What happened?
Right.
Yeah. Tetris 99 is a genuinely good example of, oh, you think you're good at Tetris?
Right.
Let me show you
Sit
the
down.
ways you are wrong.
Right.
Like, it's, again, an idea that should never have worked, that somehow worked. It's like they put peanut butter in my chocolate. It's terrible.
Those madmen.
Mm-hmm. But yes,
Yeah.
Tetris 99 is incredible. 2 games left. Let's go, Nymph.
Well, I already went through my top 20, so I'm just going to interject honorable mentions.
Okay.
Mm.
And these will just be fast. Udawari Ramono. The 2... Exactly.
Yep.
Because I'm missing more JRPGs out of this. The 2
Right.
visual novels, Prelude to the Fallen, and Mask of Deception, Mask of Truth, because there was 3 of them altogether.
Yeah.
Really good games. You can get them on Vita. You can get them on PS4. Really good visual novels. I really love them. Don't look anything up about them because there is a really massive plot twist that happens at the end of one of them that's going to blow your mind.
Also, the original is an adult game, so don't look that up.
Yeah, The
Yeah.
Prelude to the Fallen is a remake of the quote-unquote adult game, which was really an adult game, but they actually
Right.
made it more in the style of the newer ones that came out. So it's
Right.
not that way anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Boston.
The Witness. This is
Yep, I saw this one coming.
obviously I love puzzle games, and you can say a lot about the apparent pretension that sort of exudes from this game. You should maybe.
It doesn't exude from the game, it exudes from the creator, we all know.
No, you should go play The Witness. It exudes a lot of pretension, but there's a thin in-game reason for it. I don't know if that entirely pays off for the pretension, but you can ignore all that stuff, and it's great. This is largely on the list because of the notebook and pen and paper and cutting out Tetris shapes that my wife and I did to like organize them on the living room floor to figure out these puzzles. It's one of those great games that I wanted to do with Obra Dinn, but I don't think my kid would have really dealt with it very well. Where playing this with a partner or playing this with a friend or some sort of basically co-op buddy, I think made it even better. And it
also, it is responsible for having one of those moments in video games. The aha.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to bring that up because there's more to The Witness than what it seems, and there's a part of the game where it shows you, and you're like, oh, that's a cool put. It just, yeah, okay. Oh, it's, oh, and then like the whole world opens back up for you, and it just, A Witness is really, really great if the audio logs pretension bothers you or the video stuff bothers you. Just don't watch it. All that stuff is totally optional. But I think the puzzles and how they're displayed and how you just do one thing through every puzzle through the entire game is you draw a line from point A to point B. And just the fact that they get like 150 puzzles out of that, and all of them are unique and challenging and rewarding, I think is incredible. Moon. 2 left.
Yep. 1 of 2. Rocket League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is the one that I thought would be in Nymph's list, if I'm completely honest.
No, this is a game that I only play because my son really enjoys it and my daughter really enjoys it.
That's why I thought it would be in your list.
Absolutely cannot play this game by myself because I hate other people too strongly in this game.
That's fair.
Don't get me wrong, it's a prime example of toxic communities being toxic.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
game chat. But when they said, hey, we made soccer with cars, it's another prime example of everybody laughed.
Yep. And the original name for this game was really bad.
Rocket-powered battle cars?
Yeah, it was like
that?
rocket-powered battle cars, something like that. Yeah, where it's like, okay, that's a real dumb name. Your car soccer game is dumb. But it's not.
Yeah. And it's incredible. And they literally got bought by Epic Games. That's how big this game has got.
Right. What a great success story.
Yeah. And again, a prime example of someone making a smart decision and going on PlayStation Plus on release day.
Like The Binding of Isaac. Hey!
Yep. Get them people talking about your game, and then people will play it.
That's right.
Yep.
It's a great game. It's a genuinely great game, and it has a supremely high skill ceiling.
God, yeah.
So if you want to, you can be just as good as God.
Hang out with him up there in space.
Yeah. It's a great game. It's a tiny, small team, and full credit to everything they've done, especially with like the cosmetics and getting money and everything like that.
Yeah.
They've done it really honorably pretty much so far. Oh, by the way, you can also drive the DeLorean and a Jurassic Park Jeep.
It's so great.
And the Batmobile from...
The Batmobile.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the Fast and the Furious. Dom's Ice Charger from the Fast and the Furious is in there.
Right.
It's a great game. And
Kit from Knight Rider's in there.
I didn't know Kit was in there. That's pretty solid. It's a great game. I don't really know what else I can say about it. It's dumb fun. Play it until you get stressed and then stop. And then maybe play it some more after you've calmed down a little bit.
Yeah. Join the next season.
Yep. Nimp, take me to your HMs again. Let me slide into your HMs.
I have Vampire.
Yes.
This close to making my list.
Yeah.
This close.
Yep.
See, I'm on my honorable mention list right now, so it was also this close to being on the list. Yeah, I really enjoyed playing it. I really enjoyed talking with you guys about it and seeing just the dumb random stuff that the three of us have individually done in this game, and then came to our own conclusions on how to do certain missions, and it all just worked out.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of those flawed gems we love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is definitely a broken game.
Yes.
I hear that the last major patch that they did for it fixed a lot of things for it.
Oh,
I haven't gone back to it since then. This game came out, 2016?
It's free this month on PS Plus.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, even better. Check it out.
Go scoop it up.
Yeah.
Genuinely great game. Also, it's by the Life is Strange people, which was the shocking part.
Yeah.
Right. Which is still crazy. My second to last game here is Yakuza 0.
And you took my last game.
There we go. Well, my last game, I think you will maybe be upset that isn't on your list. I'll just blow through these two then, and we'll wrap out our episode here. I have sung the praises of Yakuza 0 since it came out, and I've become one of those Yakuza converts where it's like, these games look interesting. I feel like I would probably like them, and decided to jump in on the new entry point and went, whoops, yep, they're 100% for me. And then Sega announces, hey, by the way, the next one's going to be a turn-based RPG, and I say, oh no.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've talked about this a lot. It is... Moon's got the Yakuza Remastered Collection there. I think I am still forever in awe of how this game manages to balance this incredibly dramatic Yakuza mob family story that's really, really well done.
And the completely bonkers.
Yeah, like the stupid random stuff you can get into, like you boiled a turkey, so you get a chicken that's also a property manager for your properties that you're also doing, and you're running a cabaret club, and you're racing toy cars, and
you just spent 8 hours doing slot cars.
Right, and there's like there's a million other ands, and like, and you're doing this, and you're doing that, and it's all really great.
And it has arguably one of the greatest character introductions of all time.
100%. Yeah.
And of course I'm talking about Majima. I'm not talking about whatever.
Goro Majima's introduction is just... it's so good. It's so long and it's so good. Yeah.
It's funny, too, seeing how normal-ish he kind of starts out.
Yeah.
And then how bet-esque crazy he gets.
Yeah. God, Yakuza 0 is so good. My last game here on the list, Yoku's Island Express.
It was on my honorable mentions. It got crossed off and didn't get moved to the right.
It's the bluest of blue sky games. It is a game that will never fail to make me happy. It is a 2D side-scrolling platform puzzle game Metroidvania where you play as a dung beetle who delivers mail.
You missed the pinball aspect.
Yeah. Pinball, yes. I'm sorry. It's just there's so much in this game, and when you saw the trailers and you saw the pitch, you're just like, this is so stupid. This is never going to work. And you start playing and you're like, oh no, crap, it's really good. And it never overstays its welcome. The story is surprisingly good, which was a genuine shock.
Yep.
All the Metroidvania powers you get are great. You don't get too many. Never overstays its welcome. It's just really good, and it's one of those genuine surprise games where you're like, I finished this, and I had a whole bunch of fun with this. I don't think I would have expected that.
And it's got one of those horns as well, where you can just press the horn button.
My wife still hates that horn.
Yeah. It's so... Yoku's Island Express is like one of those games where it's like, you might not have heard about it, and that's okay, but you need to go play it. It's like $3 pretty much forever, and it's on everything. So just go get it.
It's so good.
Yeah. But that's the end of our lists.
Oh, hang on. I got one more, because Moon's not going to feel complete if I don't say this title.
Okay.
Atelier Riza, Ever Darkness in the Secret Hideout.
There it is. Yeah. We got all the JRPG titles out of the way.
Whatever.
That's our...
Just
go ahead.
As a quick wrap up, obviously we didn't cover everything. There's a lot that we would probably still love to talk about. Still, we could probably talk all year.
100%.
We have been going for several hours at this point. Obviously, shout out to things like Shovel Knight, Metal Gear Solid 5, Firewatch.
The Firewatch is great.
Like, there's so many games that could be in this list, and I'm sure. Sound off in the comments below. Right. Let us know what you think. Should have been what was your personal game of the generation?
Your favorite of the generation.
Game of the generation.
Yeah, right. This is just a jumping off point for you guys to check out some of the crazy stuff that we check out.
Yeah. Yeah, and now we can sort of happily transition into Generation 9, which is happening this week. List. That's right. Yeah. Hashtag start the list. Yeah. Which is very exciting. So we've been recording forever. We made it to that 3-hour mark, including the outcasts that we were sort of looking for. So thank you to anyone who has stuck through this long. It's fun doing these kind of random episodes every once in a while, kind of breaking the mold a little bit here. TVGP.tv. Everywhere to find and follow us on the right hand side of the page. Patreon.com/E1M1, the ones are numbers. Don't forget about our current game club and We Roguelike Game, along with Critical Misses, which is just Moon and I are really having a fun time with. And I think that's it. So we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. And thank you very much, everyone, for watching us live and for listening to the whole episode. Sincerely appreciate it.